What's good? What's good, my people? GizzyCredit here. I want to go live on Facebook. So let me just go live right now. Okay. How to get high limit credit cards using our funding system. Okay. What's good? What's good? Please like and share if you don't mind. Please like and share the video. Also, let me know a pop-up chat. Let me know where you guys are from. What's good, Brian? The real J, JL. Hello, everyone. Luis Mejia, what's good? Luis Mejia, I'm gonna make you a call mañana. I'm gonna make you a call. Okay, no problem. So, Facebook, let's go live on Facebook. Okay. Hold up. All right, let me take this off. Sorry for the, if you end this video, oh, am I live? What's good, John?
What's going on?
Good. Over here trying to technical difficulties with this YouTube live. Do you want to end the video? No, cancel. Okay, so how do I see my stuff? I don't understand. Can you guys comment on Facebook? Can you guys comment? Video status, change preview to live, service, invite friends. I can't even see edit post, create poll. Can someone comment? Someone's watching on Facebook. I need you guys to, oh, here it goes. Let me see if I can see this. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Juan Hernandez was good. All right, John. So we got about 10 people online right now. I already let people know. We got Luis Mejia. He's going to call us tomorrow. Matthew Satcher, what's up? Jersey in the house. Luis Mejia. All right. Victor Villalobos, what's up, Gizzy? What's good, my people? Everyone, hello. I tried to do it through the Facebook business page that I have, but it wasn't letting me. I think I got to do that individually, John.
That's fine.
Yeah. So, because I tried to go live on Facebook itself on my personal page, and then I tried to do it through my business, and it froze. So I said, okay, cool. Let me just do everything. So people are logging on right now. Thank you for liking and sharing the content. Please like the video. It helps us out a lot. All right, so what's up, Andrew? A lot of people that normally come on to our lives. Today's topic, just want to say thank you for logging on. I go by GizzyCredit. This is my partner, John. Me and John have been doing credit repair for over 10 years, helping people online. I got with John back in 2012, and John is the expert with sending out disputes online, creating systems like what we talked about with our $99 credit repair system. Today, we will talk about our funding system. He's also the brains behind disputing with the professional do-it-yourself credit repair system. So if you are a credit repair person looking to expand your knowledge, this is your channel to be at. If you are currently a person who's looking for the service, we currently take on credit repair customers on a daily basis, but we also have other products like do-it-yourself systems where you could actually do it yourself. We like to do these videos to further educate you and to put a face, a voice to the emails and let you guys get comfortable with us, because that's what it's all about. You guys see us every day online doing what we do. So right now I'm going to let John talk about our $99 do-it-yourself credit card funding system, which has been sold thousands of times already. And it continues to sell on a daily basis. But we want to make these videos to further educate you. And if you have any questions, please write them on the chat room, so that we can get to you. All right. So, John, let me see. And everyone here, John, go ahead, John. Introduce yourself.
My name's John Broker. I've been working with Gizzy now for, like we said, about 7 or 8 years so far.
Let me know if you hear him.
We decided to do these podcasts. I know we do these intros every time, but we decided to do these podcasts just as obviously an educational scenario, but also to provide a little more transparency around just the entire process. Because I feel like, credit repair and funding, we were talking about this at the end of the last cast we did relating to the credit repair, the do-it-yourself credit repair system. And just about how there's just so much nonsense and all this stuff shrouded in ridiculousness. So, I mean, we feel, pulling back the curtain and kind of exposing some of this stuff and also opening up some transparency. So it enables people to understand a little more what they're getting themselves into is exactly, one of the large and main reasons we're doing this. We left off the other day on Monday with the $99 credit repair system. And, obviously we go off in certain tangents while we're talking. But in regards to the funding system, the reason we came out, like we always preface, the reason we came out with the funding system was because at that particular time back in 2014, actually probably earlier than that when we put it together, it came out in 14, but people were getting charged, man, it was high, it was like 20%, sometimes 25%.
25%, yes.
Yeah, which was insane.
Georgia, Atlanta area.
Right. So, but it was everywhere. It really wasn't just, it was everywhere, but you would see it in that area as well. But, so as a way of assisting consumers, we said, look, if we get the file clean, because what was happening was clients were going out and getting, $50,000 and they were paying $12,500 off the top before they even put any money to work. You're paying that $12,500.
Can you put that? Okay, you're saying $12,500, but I don't think people understand what $12,500 is, John.
Okay, so when back in that period of time, and it's changed exponentially with the supply of people that do it now. So obviously it drove the fees down, and it was obviously exposed. But if somebody went and paid $50,000, whether it was over one card or a couple cards, they would charge back then, honestly, it would be up 20%. So let's just round numbers. 20% of $50,000 is approximately $10,000. So they would take a $10,000 fee and you'd be in the whole $10,000 after you got this money, which again, for the individual that's on the receiving end, they're already in a $10,000 hole that they're paying $10,000 on. That you have the minimum payment on $10,000. If you go back to our last cast, is 2.5% of the outstanding balance. So that would be approximately $250 the client's paying already. Correct. They haven't even spent $1 outside of paying the individual that's funding it for them. So, when things started to get excessive and we started to see kind of, things getting just out of hand, we decided to complement the repair system with the funding system. And again, it was more of a consumer-related situation. I can't stress this enough. This is more related on the consumer, and just because we're very much consumer-friendly in this situation. So it was designed so that consumers could figure out a way to understand, right? Because again, it's very similar to the repair system, the $99 repair system, in that it's about 30 pages, half of its content. The other half is lists of lenders that pull particular bureaus for particular types of credit, et cetera, what cards to pull, et cetera. And a good amount of depth in regards to how your ratios need to look, what multipliers they use in terms of trying to determine your approval amounts, how to tease those approval amounts up with AUs and things of that sort.
AUs, authorized users.
Authorized users, I'm sorry. And they're synonymous with, people call them trade lines too sometimes. So, there's a lot. At the same time, it allowed for the opportunity to let somebody that's getting in know exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. Now, if you're somebody that's already in the business and you're doing it and you're trying to, get over on people for 20%, then obviously, some of that stuff you're aware of. I know some of it they're not, right? But for the general consumer coming in, which is who we catered it for, it gives a lot of depth in how they arrive at it, which cards to apply for again. And then it gives you a list of lenders that pull particular bureaus. Now, the one thing I want to stress that I get in I have questions about constantly is that there is, and this is a misnomer that exists among credit boards, because I got a question today about it.
Okay.
Lenders don't pull different bureaus geographically. I want to rule that out first and foremost. That does not happen. There's not a different geographic location that Chase Bank pulls a different bureau if you live on the East Coast versus the West Coast. They're set up with particular lenders that they pull. Now, the time that you would see a deviation of that is if for some reason your personal information on that bureau doesn't match what you're submitting on the application. Okay, primary address doesn't match. The way you spell your name, if your name's with a middle initial and you don't include it, and Transunion does, they're going to bump down to that different bureau so that it matches. That's how those algorithms work. If you follow our casts,
explaining. Let me put it together, John, for the people watching, man. If Equifax, right? You say you go to an Equifax only lender, and your name is John C. Gonzalez, and that's how it's spelled on your Equifax credit report. So you go to an Equifax only lender, but you spell your name John Carlos Gonzalez. They're not going to run your Equifax credit report. Is that correct, John?
No, it's a little more depth than that. So there's certain pieces of information that tie into the report that pull the report, right? Most people think it's just a social security number. It's not. It's a social security number. It's the name. It's the address. It's the date of birth. So those 4 bullet points, need to match. Now, obviously, the social and the date of birth should never deviate. The areas that people run into problems, though, is the name, and especially, sometimes if people have multiple names or if meaning last names, because double last names now become popular, more at least in the past, and the address is of significance, right? Of significance. So, I mean, it ends up being a situation where if yes, about the name that you just said, like, let's just say your name for argument's sake is John Smith, and you submit it, and just for formality purposes, it's listed as John Smith on Experian, and you submit it as John Joseph Smith with your middle name. There's a strong probability, that they're not going to pull all 3 bureaus. I'm sorry, they're not going to pull the bureau that you want. It needs to match, and we reiterate this, and we go over this in the system. I mean, it's very clear and in depth. So when people submit, and they say, "Oh, it doesn't pull that bureau," I'm like, no. It does pull that bureau. You obviously didn't submit properly, and this is exactly what happens. I want to be clear about something. The stuff that we put in our systems, the stuff that we talk about, it is not opinion. This is not an opinion that we're providing to you. This is a fact. So this is why I like to do these podcasts, so that you guys can actually have a real educational point of reference that you can fall back on, and you can lean on, and you can grow from your knowledge, right? So the things that I'm providing to is not an opinion that I'm providing to. It's fact and knowledge based upon doing this for over 10 years and submitting who knows how much for how much funding, and how many credit repairs that we've done over the course of that period of time. And this knowledge that we developed in this arena as a result of that. But getting back to the system, it enabled the consumers to, basically learn, and then learn how to submit. So it breaks down, like we were saying before, it breaks down the different bureaus, what lenders pull the bureaus, even has some alternative credit lenders in there. And again, I want to repeat, this was put together for consumers. I'm stressing this on the funding side because sometimes we get guys that do funding for a living, okay? And they'll email and they'll say, "Oh, this list is too small. This isn't a big enough list. It doesn't have enough depth to it." And first of all, there's about 20 lenders on, okay? So that maybe 25. That's a lot of lenders. Evidently, it's not enough for some of the people that, claim that they're funding, people in on a wide swath. But the reality is that it is exactly what a consumer needs. It's more than enough for a consumer times 10, and it gives enough detail for them to be able to utilize it and be successful with it if they follow it. Now, again, I can't stress we did this with the repair system. Read, understand the content, comprehend what you're reading, understand it. It's there for a reason. There's a lot of specificity in how things get done, and it needs to be followed. If it's not followed, that's why we always instruct people in the support on the forum, follow our systems to the T. Yes. To the detail, to the period, follow it to the T. We put them with detail so that they can be done with detail, right? So if you follow them, you're going to be very successful. Now, at the end of the day, this is the funding system comes with unlimited support as well. It's just like the repair system in that it comes with unlimited support. It's $99 the same way. We priced it the same way in the event that somebody came in and they wanted to repair their own credit and do their own funding, right? So we did it that way with the same type of support, same type of everything. And we have a forum for it, just like we do the credit repair system. If you go to the site creditlife.us and you go to the forum page, you'll see 2 separate forums, one for the repair, one for the funding. So, we've had a lot of success stories because he posted some of them on the funding side. But
we've been posting funding videos since like 2014, 2013, since we started doing it years ago. I meant
from the. Oh, you mean from the $99 system?
No. I mean the knowledge that we have on funding and how to get people high limit credit cards, right? Yeah. We've been doing it for a long time. With the system, I have numerous videos of people who purchased the $99 system and have gotten over $100,000 with the system, or 80 or 40. Not everyone is looking to get a lot of money, but whoever gets 18, 20 grand, they're happy.
And it's not only that though, but these aren't professionals. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
These aren't people that claim they do this for a living. These are just ordinary people. You understand what I mean? That they're reading it, they're following it, and they're getting 100 grand, right? So that's victory in the whole process. That's the rewarding element of it. It's not, and just imagine again, even in today's, I think I don't even know anymore because we offer funding free for our clients. So, but if somebody were to just go and ask somebody to get them for, retain somebody to go out and get them funding, I think the average fee right now is like 7%, something like that.
Usually it's like 10% though. People still do the funding. People still.
How much did you say it is? 5?
10%.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, but you think about that on 100 grand, you just see 5 grand, right? And you paid $99 for it.
But John, you don't know how many people call me and they say, I want you to do it. And I'm like, bro, do you know that if we get you a $20,000 credit card, you've got to pay 10%? That's $1,000, right?
That's more than $1,000. That's $2,000.
That's $2,000.
5% is $1,000. Yeah.
You're gonna pay us $2,000. Now we love that business. We love it, but we came out with the $99 system for a reason, to say, listen, you could do it yourself. What is it the saying, John? Throw a fish. The fisherman had a fish. Feed him once. What's that saying?
Yeah. No, it's the basic idea is just teach them how to feed themselves. And the fact of the matter is that in this case, both of them enable that, right? So, I mean, look, our goal is to help as many people as possible. And we came up with these 2 systems with the idea that if they can't afford to have us help them, or if, again, we go back to this, if they're like a DIYer, somebody that does, it likes to do DIY and is good about getting their hands dirty and getting in there and doing it themselves, then they have a legitimate and viable and functional and efficient, process that a blueprint that they can put into place, follow, watch it, see it through, and actually reap the rewards of them doing it themselves. Now, again, we prefer to do it. I prefer to help people on the credit repair side. We don't charge when a client. We have a client nowadays, and we're cleaning up the client, as we talked about in previous casts. We don't charge them for the goals, right? We don't charge them for auto loans to set them up. We don't charge them for other things to set them up. But if an individual came to us independent of the repair process, we would charge them because it would be outside of the general goal and what the original price was set up. But I mean, in any instance, like Gizzy, like you were just saying, I mean, if an individual comes in, why wouldn't they want to do it themselves? I just don't. Again, some of these things are a little puzzling when it comes to just the general understanding. I think I got a pretty good understanding of the general consumer. Some of these things we do get that are a little confusing to me, but I think it comes back to maybe that individual just hasn't followed you long enough. You know what I mean? And maybe they're just popping in and then they saw something here or there and it attracted them and they're like, you know what? I don't trust the system. I want you to do it because I've seen you do it, right? Or maybe they bought a couple systems and they were trashed, and they're like, you know what? Well, I'd rather you just do it. I'd rather pay. Or maybe they have no intention of paying the back end fee and they're just trying to dip in and dip out.
Well, I got a video, the Asian guy that did us dirty was one of the main reasons why I stopped taking the funding customers.
Yeah. No, I know.
That was back in the day. And we funded him. It was like $18,000, $17,000 credit card. And he didn't want to pay because he was expecting 20 grand. Like we guaranteed, oh no, we're going to get you 20 grand. I never said that.
No, there was another guy right around the same time.
Oh, that was the guy from Colorado.
Yeah, we got him like 50 grand and he just disappeared.
80, John. It was 80.
80 grand. Yeah, it was a kick in the nuts. But that, see, that's it. Just for anybody listening and paying attention, when we arrive at our pricing and we arrive at the decisions we make, it's not done in a callous way. It's not done in a way that we're just trying to stick it to people. We're trying to be difficult. We have seen everything you could see in this business, right?
Correct.
So, and you've seen the underbelly of some particular individuals who are unsavory, and at the same time, you have
not easy to deal with.
At all times, you have to do your best to try and hedge against that. And over the course of time, we've seen like this. Now, this guy that we're talking about, that was 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
No, that was 2015, probably. That shit hurt.
Like
that shit
hurt.
hurt.
It was like 4 or 5 years ago. So, and I think that's around the time that we came out with this too, because it was like, look, let them do it themselves. Because if you're gonna have people, look, we can, we talk about it a lot, but I mean, we're legitimately about trying to help people. So we're not we're not interested in bringing in people to our process that aren't interested in being part of the ecosystem, right? And aren't interested in trying to do good business, aren't interested in trying to better themselves, and we're not in it for the one and dones. And I think over the course of time, we've made it abundantly clear to the people that come on and start with us, which we're grateful for all our clients, but that we are a legitimate, professional, functional, efficient organization on both fronts. And we want clients that want to help themselves and want to follow the process and want to, follow our advice and actually listen and all that stuff. And I think as a result, our base of client has grown, and it's grown to become a better client over the course of time. And I'm extremely grateful for that, because it's allowed us the opportunity to get in the situation where we are now, where the clients trust us to take them from A to Z, right? I mean, 7-8 years ago, there was no way. Everybody was an expert on everything, right? So they, you get their credit clean and they go, like we have talked about in previous casts, they buy 3 cars, get, when money was a little looser in the system, get $60,000 in funding, and who knows where they were at 6 months later, because they didn't come back.
Yeah.
Right. But they did it on their own, and who knows? I don't know how that would have been a sustainable situation. So the fact that we get the opportunity now with our clients, not only clean them, but they trust us to walk them through and get them in a sustainable position, obviously allows the process, because the business grows larger than referral, and it allows the process to grow functionally. So I think that our way of kind of giving back to that is coming out with these systems that we know work because we utilize them. A lot of the lenders, all the lenders we've used directly, tons of times over the course of time, our credit repair system's the same way. It's like we talked about before. It's a part of a system that we use all the time.
Correct.
And it's just as functional. So, I mean, I think, I think the one thing I want to talk about, and you and I talked about this earlier today, is that I think funding it's kind of like that credit suite conversation, right? It's just a very vague thing that people throw out, and they kind of lean on people's lack of knowledge. So there's multiple, for a personal individual, like an individual consumer, there's multiple types of funding, right? There's credit cards, there's personal loans.
Yes. Lines of credit. Is that?
What's that?
Lines of credit.
There's personal lines of credit, exactly. And so it needs to be understood, though, that credit cards are the lowest hanging fruit of the 3, right? Like if somebody's saying they're going to get you funding, you need to ask like how it's coming in, right? Is it coming in credit cards? Is it going to come in a personal loan? Is it coming in a line of credit?
This is wait a minute. This is a good conversation right now. Because if someone is looking for funding, what do you look out for you not to get scammed, right? Or
again, how about just knowing what to ask, right? So you're more knowledgeable, so you walk into the situation and you're not getting, for lack of a better term, you're not the dumbest one in the room, right? You're not the one that everybody's trying to take advantage of. You know what you're talking about. You can walk in with an intelligent conversation. You can ask the right questions, and this way it allows you to make the appropriate decision. Because what I've seen over the years, which drives me nuts, is these people get them approvals, and number one, the approvals are terrible, right? They'll tell them they'll get them $50,000, and they'll get 10 cards for $5,000. Right. Number one, I don't know what that does for anybody, right? Because after they paid the fee, every one of those cards is down. Now the individual is managing 10 cards at $5,000, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying $5,000 is a small amount of money, but I assure you that individual was not expecting it to be 10 cards for $5,000, right? They were probably expecting it to be 1 line or maybe 2 lines to equal that amount so they could manage it functionally, right?
But the next thing you know, a year from now or 9 months from now, those credit cards are maxed out and they're coming to us for advice on how to handle that when those credit cards come with high interest rates.
Well, it's yeah, but it's not. See, this is what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, it can be prevented though. And honestly, I don't even. Like if it can be prevented from a multitude of reasons, but let me finish this thought, and then I could then. So
my bad. No,
it's okay. But we're gonna go that direction anyway. So if you think about it, the client goes out and whoever this funder is, which rarely has a legitimate operation, right? I mean, it's rarely that kind of a situation. And the individual says, "Yeah, I'll get you 50 grand, I'll get 100 grand, or I'll get you 150 grand, whatever the case may be." It always falls short, and it's always on terms that aren't ever what you thought they were going to be or how they were pitched to you, right? It's always a significant shortage where they tell you get 50 and you get 25, and that 25 split over 6 cards of 4 grand. That all can be prevented. I mean, it can be prevented if you read our system. It explains to you exactly how the lenders arrive at the approvals. It's not an opinion. Again, going back, it's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact how they arrive at the multipliers that their algorithms use to determine what your discretionary capital is at the end of the month to apply towards how much of a card you can be approved for, assuming the car is fully vested or fully maxed out, right? Because that's how they determine it.
Okay, John, can you explain discretionary income for some of the viewers who may not understand what that is?
So discretionary income just means it's your net at the end of the month, right? So if you bring 5, you net out, after all your taxes and everything, you have $5,000 coming in your door that month. And let's say your bills are $3,000, right? Then technically your discretionary, would be $2,000. 5 minus 3 is 2, and that's a net cash to you that you can spend however you want. But what the banks do is the banks back out from a gross number. So they don't take your net number. They'll take a gross number, and then they'll take a multiplier on it, meaning 40, 50, 30, you know what I mean? A certain percentage. Much like a debt to income ratio, where they're allocate off that, then they'll back off your debts, because they in that multiplier they arrived at a long time ago. But in doing so, they use a very conservative multiplier, which also accounts for living expenses that aren't on your credit report, gas.
But does that also input the taxes that a person pays?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say I make $100,000 a year. My tax bracket is a certain percentage, correct?
So they're allocating. It is, but it's a blanket multiplier, right? So it ends up being, let's just say for argument's sake, again, this isn't the exact number. Let's just say they're going to use 50%, right? So if you make 10 grand gross, or let's use your scenario, you make 100 grand, it's like 8 grand a month, and they're using a 50% multiplier, right? That means they're only going to give you credit for 4 grand of that 8 grand. The other 50% of that they're applying towards, which they know is going to go to taxes, right? They're assuming 25% of that likely will go to taxes. Then they're going to take the difference of it and assume it's going to go to utilities, cable, cell phone, gas, food, right? All the incidentals that don't show up on your credit report. And then from that number, they take the debts off of your credit report, right? After the multiplier, and that is a true discretionary number. Is that confusing? Do you think I need to elaborate on it a little more?
Now let's get deeper into it, because you know how you've seen charts of the expensive states in the United States. Like, you got California as an expensive state, New Jersey, Connecticut, and they tell you how much the minimum, how much people get paid or make in that state. Do by any conspiracy, let's say, do they go by that number? Or no.
The number that they use is a flat number. The cost of living, it gets associated with like commodities and gas, right? Okay. So when you're in a high area like New York, California, like you said, your commodities are going to be priced up. Like your gas is going to cost more, your milk's going to cost more. Things like that will cost more in those areas where the cost of living is higher. In the areas that the cost of living is lower, you're going to see it tick down, right? Yes. So it evens itself out and levels itself out over the course of the area, but that's how they do it. But it doesn't apply to this situation. The ratio and the formula I'm talking about that they use in approving you, which is detailed in the credit funding system, it's just a flat multiplier, and it's how they do. It's not the same number, but it's how they do school loans. They use a flat multiplier for that, and then they you essentially state it. I just want to make a point. So I had posted some stuff on the Credit Life site and on the Credit Life Facebook page this morning, just about how, without going off on a tangent here, without how mortgage delinquencies are down at the lowest level going back like 4 or 5 years, which is normally a really good indicator of the broader economy, right? People are paying their mortgage, which means that, they're doing okay, right? Normally when you start to see mortgage delinquencies tick up, it's because that's normally the biggest bill someone's paid. So if you see them start struggling with that, it's normally an early indicator that you're going to start seeing problems, right?
Yes.
Also, another early indicator is when you start seeing, overall balances, because they report them on credit cards. When people start getting close to maxed out, you start seeing that as an early indicator that we're going to start running into problems for the overall economy. The point I'm trying to make is that mortgage delinquencies are at like a multi-year low right now, right? Which is fabulous. The problem is that credit cards, school loans, and autos are all up significantly. Now, you say to yourself, meaning that delinquencies are up significantly, exponentially year over year, right?
Yes.
So then you say to yourself, what is the difference between the two? Why would mortgages be down and the other ones be up? And it's very simple. Those three don't require no income documentation. So you're playing with 07, 08 rules, right? When the economy blew up because everybody didn't document their income, right? And you look at the people that fully doc for the mortgages, they're paying on time because you can see their income.
Yes.
The people that come in and get 3 cars, it's not happening. And the people that state and exaggerate their income on the credit cards, and the people that go get school loans and over leverage on the school loan side, all that stuff isn't substantiated at all with income. It just isn't. And that's why the default rates are so high. That's why you see the default rates so excessive and you see them ticking up. So there's a little bit of a conundrum going on just from an economic perspective that you can see the clear divide. The thing I don't understand is if you're a lender and you know that, like, for instance, in the auto loans and the school loans, and you know that you have a 25% default rate, why not just do everything full doc? I mean, I know it would stop the flow of money, but why not do everything full doc? And you would probably net out the same profit at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
Like you're losing 25% of your income, and part of the 75% is paying for that. So in essence, if you cut back, because in all fairness, 25% of the people are probably the ones exaggerating their income or have no business getting it. If you extracted that out of the situation, the banks would make 10 times as much money. They would have a less amount of collection costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But I mean, I know that's not what anybody wants to hear on this call. I'm just saying that it goes back to the fact that, credit cards are the fund of this kind are the lowest hanging fruit that exists right now. But the one thing people need to understand is that it's evolved significantly in the last 7 or 8, 9 years, because when the market collapsed in 08 and 09, the banks tightened up like crazy, right? Like mortgages reverted back to old school 10, 15% down, right? When they were 100% financed the day before. Auto loans, all the money flow in the system dried up. The Fed extracted it, and therefore a lot of the banks had to extract it. So you saw the terms change. The one thing that didn't change was credit cards. So they were the low-hanging fruit. 2009, 2010, right? Everybody was going out and getting credit cards because it was the easiest money to get, and you could do it with a good credit score, and you didn't have to document it, because a lot of people weren't spectacular documenting their income then because they didn't need to, because everybody was a real estate investor back then. So it was the low hanging fruit. So as we go forward with I lost my thought. I lost my thought. Hold on for a second.
Write down. I'm losing my thought too. Answering some questions on YouTube. Can someone answer something if y'all were listening? I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. But I'll just keep going. So back in 09, it was the low hanging fruit. So as things came forward and people this is what I was saying. I remember that.
Okay.
So things changed in how they did it over the course of time. So when everybody knew that the low hanging fruit of funding, because this was before Prosper Lending Club, meaning 09, 2010, it was before they came out, and there was more fintech opportunities.
Yes.
It was basically just credit cards. So everybody went out and got credit cards, right? That business boomed. If you ever look at a bank, earnings, they make a ton of money so they were making a lot of money there. The problem is it sprouted up a lot of scams, right? And if you remember, some of the things that were going on into 2010, 2011 was that people were making up fake companies and opening up business credit cards to the tune of millions of dollars, right? They would just keep opening up fake companies, stating the income, getting business credit cards, going bad on them, doing it all over again. There was a big scenario that took place where 8 or 9 banks got lambasted, right? Just got roped. And this was 2012, I think 2011, something like that. And since that time, they, like I said in previous casts, the banks always figure out a way to close the gap, right? It doesn't happen in real time. It typically happens after, but when they close it, it's sealed. And what's going on since then is now when you're applying for a business credit card, I mean, the whole process is different.
Well, right now I got a question for him. Now is this, well, can you work with someone to get business funding? So business credit cards, that's a whole different thing.
Business credit cards are a whole different thing, and the reality is that it's a totally different. It's a totally different process than it was in the past. I mean, in the past, there was all these short. People would say, "Yeah, you can buy a shelf corp and build it up and blah blah blah."
Yeah, that's true. Back 2010, that was the flavor of the month.
Right. So yeah, that was the smoke, right, at that time. And the fact of the matter is now, there's no possibility. If people are selling shelf corps and telling you they're going to build them up and sell them to you and transfer them over to you, that's not how it gets underwritten. I mean, there's an actual underwriting process even when you do that. Even when you apply for business cards, you can't just make stuff up and build it up in somebody's name and credit and then just transfer it over, shift it over to somebody else's name. I mean, maybe like a Fortune 500 company, you can do that. Something where all the creditors are willing to transfer it over, or if it's all non-recourse debt. But outside of that, there's no other way you could do it. So it's just another gimmick that's still going on today, because I see stuff and I hear stuff that people are still trying to sell these prepackaged corporations that barely worked back then, and they don't work now. And it's an adjustment of what exactly has evolved over the course of time with credit cards, because they are the low-hanging fruit. And for some reason, maybe it's because they make so much money and they don't want to cut that off, but the banks still refuse to do any further type of documentation. But again, Gizzy, this is something we talked about today. What they do is, rather than you providing income documentation these days on credit cards, the one way that they identify roughly what you make, right? Because what you state on there it's nonsense, right? Most people that try to apply that maybe aren't as established as they'd like to be just make up numbers, right? I mean, they don't even know how they arrive at it. They just throw an enormous number out there and think that it's going to substantiate. The problem is, if you own a credit card, every year you're going to get a privacy notice. In that privacy notice and that privacy sharing notice, in that notice, it tells you exactly what your creditor is sharing and who they're sharing it with. And every one of them says, we're sharing it with other banks. And most of that is based upon, number one, the income you list on there. They get a cumulative understanding of what you're listing, the deviations and such. And they also pull it from other areas. So they have their own way of communicating and establishing a certain income that you have without you stating it. So that's why if you see somebody that states $500,000 and that their highest earning year was $30,000, they don't get the approval they want. Well, it's probably a multitude of reasons, but it's largely because they're just disregarding the number because they know it's not real, right? And the fact of the matter is, it gets completely disregarded, but people think, and it still gets percolated in because I have to rule a lot of these myths out on a daily basis. It still gets percolated that that it works off of that, and that you can just invent your income, and the banks are a bunch of doofuses, and they don't know what they're doing except they're trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of equity. They still don't know what they're doing in lending credit cards. So the thing I would impress upon people is that, there is a process that goes on. It is still the low-hanging fruit. There is a process that goes on there, but it's all stuff that you guys can understand. There's no secret sauce that these funding companies are doing that you can't do yourself if you understand. And in our funding system, it explains how to do it. Look, you can, in all fairness, you could buy our funding system just for the logistical stuff, just to understand the foundation of how everything comes together, right? How they arrive at their approvals, how to tease the amounts up, what lenders pull what, so you have a good start. Like I said, we got about 20, 25 in there that you can work from. Correct. And then from that point, you have the knowledge. You can go out and start searching for your own lenders on top of the ones that you're given, right?
Correct.
I mean, you have the ability at that point to embolden yourself in that atmosphere, because you'll have the knowledge at that point. You'll have the education. You don't need to go to somebody and say, I need funding, and not know what you're going to get. You'll be in full control of the situation. So to go back, though, because I've seen this happen, where people will say they're going to get funding and they put them through personal loans, right? Like Best Egg, Lending Club, Prosper. And look, you don't need somebody to put you through to basically do your paperwork for it. You pay them 5%, right? I mean, I think anybody understands that. I mean, that's absurd. And this is where the smoke comes with that whole industry, is the fact that they're basically leaning on the idea, they're presenting it one way, and they're leaning on the fact that the client's not going to know. And the money's there. It's like, look, I got you the money, so you got to pay, right? Like, I got you the money, you got to pay. And the reality is that most people, like these loans, like Lending Club, Prosper, Best, those interest rates are deplorable, right?
Yes.
I mean, they charge 15, 16, 17%. They're almost as bad as credit cards, and their default rates are out of this world too. So it's like, trying to arrange a sustainable, well-prepared situation, it's very, very simple if you don't act hastily, right? If you go to the right people, you get the right advice, and you follow the right system, it makes it very simple to understand how this stuff is. It's not shrouded in so much mystery. There's not some blast of knowledge the guy that's posting on Craigslist knows that you don't know. Trust me, I assure you of that.
Or you gotta write a specific income amount, and definitely you're gonna get it.
On the personal loans, they 4506T them though, so you can't even. And for anybody who doesn't know what a 4506T is, a 4506T means when you apply for a mortgage, personal loans, they order a copy of your short order transcript of your tax return. So in a Prosper loan, if you claim your income's $100,000, they don't ask you for it. They might ask you to upload your tax returns, but then they confirm them by getting a copy of your tax return from a short form from the IRS to confirm, make sure you're not making up the paperwork. So it's their hedge against that. Correct. So even in those instances, you can't even really cheat it. You just get taken advantage of, right? So the true low-hanging fruit where they don't do that is the credit card funding. The credit cards and the school loans. They don't do any 4506D with the school loans, but nobody's getting, nobody's happy they're taking out school loans. So correct. As far as the credit card stuff, though, it is what it is, and it is a low-hanging fruit. But I just think people need to understand there's no need to the funding system will give you and empower you with the necessary amount of knowledge, and that knowledge will enable you to be able to go out there, and it'll give you a very strong base of lenders with endless support that you can work from and back in from, and then grow your knowledge with. I mean, again,
and not only that, you can actually have an intelligent conversation with someone else about the subject, and they're gonna totally understand you, because the system is written in such a way that it's a very easy to understand read. So it's not something where you're going to be like, I don't want to, maybe John will have a vocabulary where he's talking, financial terms, but the system is, well-versed and anyone could understand it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I put it together to the point to where, the system that was put together, I did it in such a way, and we talked about this on Monday with the repair system, so that any education level can understand it. It's not. Look, I talk fast. I talk fast because my brain moves fast. It's just the way it is. When you read this, it's very simple. It's written very clearly. It works for all education levels, and it's very, very easy to digest and comprehend information. It's just very well laid out, and it's very specific in how all these things are done. And you're not going to have a problem comprehending it if you decide to get it. That's not going to be the issue. But I implore you, whoever buys it, to make sure that they fully digest it, right? Like read it. Because not everybody, we're not a society that is overwhelmed with people that love to read. There are some, but people like getting from A to Z as quickly as possible. And sometimes that means skimming some pages or skipping through. I've learned this, through selling these systems, just skipping through and going right to the lenders, ignoring all the content, right?
All right, yes.
And just thinking they have all the answers when they don't. And the reality is, we put all that content in there because it's imperative to go along with it, so you understand if there's any troubleshooting, why this happened, why that happened. If we wanted to just sell a lender list, we'd sell a lender list, right? I mean, that's not what we wouldn't. It's just not what was designed. Again, it goes back to the idea that we did it for the consumer. The only issues we ever have with the funding system, with people buying it, are people that do it for a living, and they say the list isn't long enough. So I get every time, it's not big enough. And their complaints, it's not big enough. It's not long enough. There needs to be more lenders. I'm thinking, this wasn't even meant for you, right? Like, I didn't even put this together for you. This was not designed for somebody to come in and operate a business out of. Now, I don't mind. I'm a capitalist. I get it. But, I mean, I don't want to hear you complaining when it wasn't even designed for you. And we made it very clear early on when we started marketing the system that it was meant for people, right? It just happened to be because the systems work and they function and they're good and they're accurate in everything that they're saying, that people turned it into a business because they recognize that it works, right?
Correct.
So an average human being would come in and buy it because they wanted to do it for their own, and they're like, wow, this works with the repair system.
Yes.
Wow, let me try the funding system. Oh, wow, this works too. Let me go get $100,000, right? We've had people that have gone both sides of it. They cleaned it and then funded it using both systems. They couldn't be happier. Now they've empowered themselves.
Only cost them $198 to do it.
$198 with endless support, right? $198 with endless support. They save themselves tens of thousands of dollars in the process, right? So, I mean, it ends up being very good for the people that trust in it. But I do understand that doing it yourself is not everybody's personality in this society, right? That's just not how it is. It's not everybody's personality anywhere.
I just got a real estate investor right now from Elizabeth, New Jersey. He's like, yo, I don't got no time for that. I need you to do it.
Yeah, said, that's what I'm saying. And I get it, right? I get it. We're making this more for the people that look, we prefer to do the credit repair. I want to be clear about that. We prefer to clean the client's file. We like walking them through because then we can see everything get done and we can see them through their goals and we have full autonomy in actually seeing it through and we're comfortable with that. So I want to be clear about that. But we did come out with these that we talked about earlier for the consumers that either A, can't afford it, or B, are the DIYers. And that's what we're talking to right now as far as if they're on the fence about deciding if this is the right system. That's why we're making this so they can fully understand what to expect when they buy it, right?
Correct.
So there's no confusion because yes, we made, Gizzy's made videos, success stories and stuff.
Because I told you that girl who wrote on a scam website, okay? She wrote on a scam website about the funding system. She said the system doesn't work. Why does the system doesn't work? The system, I didn't know that I needed to have good credit in order for the system to work. Really?
Yeah, I know. But that's just a one-off. That's just somebody that's,
but she got to go and put us on a scam website. Come on, man.
But that's just somebody in a completely different stratosphere, right? I mean, that's that not even 1%. That's like that 0.1% person, right? That just is just
0.1%.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's somebody that is on a different planet, right? I mean, you're not even in the right place. You're not even in the conversation, right? Like if you're coming in and you have that kind of lack of knowledge, there should have been a reach out to support. Like, listen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shouldn't have gotten to that point. It should have, but whatever. I mean, look. Again, that's like the point, like you said, 0.01% of people. I mean, that's the crazy. Honestly, that's the craziest story in the 5 years. She's the craziest. Meaning, not she's crazy, but how that whole
No, I think I call her crazy. She crazy.
I'm saying that it was the craziest situation. Like how the emails that she was sending over to support. There was emails like there's no lenders on here, and she's getting emails back like, what are you talking? What? Look at page this, page this, page
Sometimes
this.
I attract some crazy people.
I think that's it. But listen, that's part of life, though. I mean, you could be selling hot dogs in the middle of New York City on a stand, and you get somebody like that, right? It's any walk of life.
That is very true.
Business.
Yes, especially online, where it's a free market for everybody.
It is, but I feel like the people that follow you and the base of people that follow you are generally good people. You know what I mean? Like they're good people. They want to improve themselves and everything. That she's a nuance to that situation. You know what I mean? Like she's not the norm. She's the exception. And I think any business, anything like that is you experience that in some capacity, right? I mean, and again, I'm fortunate that the percentage is 0.01, and it's not a higher percentage because that would not be fun. But with all that being said, I think that anybody can do this if they wanted to. But I think as far as the funding is concerned, I think that there are people that like for us to do it, and that's fine. And honestly, that's why we don't charge anymore when we do the repair and we go for the funding, because you can't really in good conscience say that you're trying to get somebody on the right path and then bang them over the head at each step, right? Hit them on the credit repair, then hit them on the auto loan, then hit them on if you're knocking out goals and you're taxing them on it, I mean, it's really kind of a contradiction at the end of the day, right?
Correct.
So,
the best thing they could do is buy us coffee. Hello?
Yeah,
Well, listen, Jay. Look. I mean, there are a lot of people who have been generous throughout the years with us, and I really appreciate you guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The clients that woman is by far the exception, right? I mean, it's good people, and like I was saying earlier in the conversation, over the years it's got even better. Like the stable of clientele that comes through from the internet, through the clients that you bring through are the good people. I mean,
there's a market. You guys are good people. There's a market, but is the one or two of you, y'all crazy.
Yeah, but listen, if you start to understand the mentality of the consumer, right, and understand that it all comes back to a place of just emotion attached to it, right? That's why we say to clients on the intake calls, right? Like, we know it's an emotional attachment. We get it, right? Everybody reacts emotionally different, right? Correct. Some people tighten up. Some people just lash out. Some people micromanage. You know, it's a multitude of different things I've learned over these years just watching people respond. But at the end of the day, they just want to see it through, and they're trying to develop an ounce of trust from a distance. You understand what I mean? We talked about this on a previous cast. I mean, a lot of the reason why we do these casts is because we want to build a level of trust for people that haven't started with us yet, so they can get an idea how we operate before they start. So because it's difficult when you're not sitting down across with somebody looking them in their eye, right?
That is
we got to work twice as hard to earn their trust, and they're making us work twice as hard to earn their trust, right? Now, obviously, if they come from referrals, and which has happened over the years, and the more you do, and the more the reputation builds, and everything gets better, and everything like that, obviously that gets less. But at the same time, it's still, you know, you gotta go out of your way to try and show as much transparency and give the client as much peace of mind, because they're trusting you with a good amount of money, and they're trusting you with personal information. They're expecting you to do what you say you got to do. So, I mean, I think, like I said before, I think it's identifiable why that even that 1 or 2% you're talking about that sometimes are a little bit volatile. But at the end of the day, when we get them to their goal, they're the ones that are the most appreciative, though, right? So,
correct. That is true.
Once you finally get them there, it's that emotion swinging back in the other direction. It's the pendulum, right?
Yes.
Their emotion before was skeptical and concerned and micromanaged, et cetera. And then when you're done,
especially the micromanagers, when they call, because let's say you're in the credit repair process for 2 months, 3 months, and you have a concern about your file, and you get us both on the phone, and you kind of are aggressive with us, like, what the hell is going on? But then we educate you on what you're trying to do, on how you're going about it, knowing that you're not going about it the right way, and then you get educated by us. You leave that conversation with a relief that, you know what, they know what they're doing. I'm gonna just step aside, let them do what they got to do, and keep moving.
Well, you know, I got to tell you, you know what the biggest impediment to our process and our general process is that frustrates clients over the course of time is watching other smoke, watching the other YouTube smoke, right? That's what it is. Just watching this nonsense, like we've talked about in the last ones, and they see other people marketing, like funding. Like, we had a call, remember, a client of ours that was getting a mortgage, and she was misinformed by a mortgage broker and a real estate agent who should never be talking about in the first place. And, you know, we were literally on the phone with her, an hour, kind of going through it. By the end of it, I mean, she got a complete education in how the mortgage process is arrived at, that she'll be ready within likely the next month. She hadn't even had all her taxes situated yet. So I don't know who told her that she was going to be getting a mortgage without having the taxes situated yet. But at the end of the day, these are things we were able to inform her. So now she's empowered to understand going forward exactly where everything needs to be. Correct. Sad reality is somehow our agent didn't do that. We had to do that. But at the same time, that's part of our job. We normally like people come to us first so that we can position them. But in her situation, she kind of wanted to do it on her own, which is fine. But ultimately now we're going to be the ones helping her do it. So, you know, I mean, look, it ends up being a much broader process. We say it all the time. We repeat it for a reason.
Correct.
You know, it is a process, and getting people to their goals is a process. And, you know, we're the ones that we're the only ones I know that I'm aware of that actually clean and then literally go down a list of financing that we do for people. I don't know anybody else that does that. I could be wrong, but I think we're very, you know, autonomous in that situation. In that there's a lot of people obviously that offer credit services. I don't know anybody that walks people through their goals the way we do and actually hits them.
I don't think so
either. Them and gets them in a position where you literally completely change their financial future. Right? You completely change the course of it in an effort to get them now in a sustainable position going forward, to where their biggest purchases in their life are now at the best possible rate and terms that are out there relative to what they're offering, and that they're fixed that way for going forward, right?
Correct.
So it's not stuck in some kind of a bad loan here, the auto loan, et cetera. Not over leveraging in the wrong areas, not doing this, not doing that, not straddled with all kinds of mess. And they have the advice too. So, I mean, it comes, you know, with a lot when you start the process, and we're doing it. But I do think people, though, that because a lot of people also think that they have a lot of the answers as well. People like that think they have the answers and need to go out and give it a shot. I think our systems would be the right systems for them to utilize, and the safe ones as far as knowing they're getting the right information, knowing it's going to be the right information to do what they're trying to accomplish and get them to the point, if they follow it, that they aspire to.
Well, I just got a question on Facebook. Is there a big difference between the $99 do-it-yourself funding and the professional funding system?
It's more lenders. It's business lenders and personal lenders and alternative lenders. So yeah, it's more in depth because it touches on the business side. The $99 system's all in personal. So the professional is for a professional, right? I mean, we don't call it the professional because it's like a tick up. We call it because it's for somebody who's going to do that for a living. It's the professional one, right? It says we're professional credit repair system. If you're trying to get yourself into an efficient process and use the exact same process that we use, and that's the one that you would use, right? Because it has all the bells and whistles, online, mail, etc., and a process surrounding it. The professional funding system allows you to do business funding, personal funding, so on and so forth, and it gives lenders and caveats to both sides of the equation there. So yeah, it's definitely more in depth.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, he's always watching our channel. Let me get to some YouTube questions right over here. Okay, happy to live. Okay, hold on. Hello everyone. Switch to autoplay, speed to auto purchase. Then we got some people here who purchased the credit repair system. Purchased the system, and right now someone also purchased the funding system. I don't know if you got a notification about it. They just said
I'm not looking at it right now.
Yeah.
They purchased it today?
Yeah, right now, like 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago.
The funding system, you mean?
The funding system, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I got a notification.
Yeah. How much? Jamie Renta? How much to fix credit? Oh, Jamie, I told you to email us. We need to review your Experian.com credit monitoring website. Make sure you're able to see your 3 bureaus on that site. Once you have that, you're gonna reply back to my email with the username, password, and your cell phone number. We're gonna try and log on. So they may ask us when we try to log on, because we have a different IP address, for a 6-digit PIN that they're going to text you, or they're going to ask us security questions. If you could send me that too, that would be great. More than likely, they'll send you a 6-digit code. You'll reply back to my email with the 6-digit code. We're able to go inside, see your 3 bureaus on Experian website, give you a quote for the service, and if you're ready to start, you're ready to start. All right, that was that question. Ruben Jaquez has a question. Kiko doing good work. Okay. Gizzy, I have a question as well. Jimbo, how can I order now? Oh, that's the person who purchased it. Okay. If I were to have my mom add me to her mortgage, would that be considered as a trade line?
Okay. First of all, you can't add somebody to a mortgage unless you refinance the mortgage. So if you're intending, it's not like a credit card. You can just add somebody. The bank underwrites it in such depth that you can't just plop somebody on there that doesn't meet the requirements. Plus, it'll push the debt to income ratio and the overall loan in one direction or the other, right? More than likely significantly. So if you were going to refinance it on there and add you, that would be a way that could happen. But I mean, I don't know if that's what she's talking about.
No, but he's probably thinking of boosting his scores with this mortgage.
Yeah, no, well, that's what I was going to get to. So if you did end up getting added to your mother's mortgage through a refinance, because it's the only way it's going to happen, then what would end up happening is it would look at you, like, let's just say, and in that instance, it would have to be a refinance, which would mean it would be a fresh debt, which would mean it would have no age, and it would straddle you as the consumer with debt, right? So let's say it's $300,000 mortgage, and the payments at 3% with principal and interest and everything, your payments $1,300. That's going to now play into your debt to income ratio and saddle you on that side, right? It has no age. It's not doing you any favors. And plus, there's no points you get from mortgages anyway. We talked about this in a previous cast. You know, when any loan, whether it's a mortgage, personal loan, auto loan, etc., when that first hits your credit, you lose about 10 to 15 points, depending on the formula. After you make the first 2 or 3 payments, that reverts back up. So you collect those points back, those 10 to 15 points, plus you get a little bit of a bump. And that is the extent of the points that you get for those loans until that loan is paid off. And then when that loan is paid off, those couple extra points that you got after you made those 3 payments, disappears. So you'll see a little bit of a drop down after you pay it off or close it out. You're expected to pay these. There's no active scoring denominator in these loans, the way they're set up and the way the scoring models are set up. So in essence, they're almost priced to idealism, meaning like if you make a late, you get rocked, right? But you're expected to make that payment. So there's no further upside from adding a loan account to your report. There just isn't, unfortunately. And anybody that's taken a loan out can commiserate and empathize with what I'm saying about how you lose points first. And then you get it back plus some in a little bit. And then when you pay it off, you see the score drop a little bit. And it's all correlated to exactly how I'm describing it. So to answer your question, no, there would be no benefit from a scoring perspective to doing that at all. Because number one, it would saddle you with debt that you're not even utilizing because it's your mom's house. So it's eliminating, depending on how much money you make, further potentials of credit. You want to get potentially a house, right? It's going to play into your own debt to income. But more importantly, there's just no scoring element to it on a wide scale that would actually help your active scoring.
Correct. Now, if you were to get added as an authorized user to one of her credit cards, and that credit card is $10,000, and she only owes $1,000, that could boost your credit score. So you want her to not owe $1,000. Maybe she owes $500, but even if she owes $1,000, that's 10% of her credit utilization on that credit card. That'll give you a boost in credit scores. So now that
authorized users will definitely, they work towards the unsecured credit ratio, which is the active driver. It's the active scoring element in your scores. When everybody sees their scores move on a monthly basis and they have credit cards open, it's typically as a result of those cards going in and out of statement and that amount adjusting as a result of it. So we talked about this on a previous cast, just about the fact that people will run one inquiry and be like, man, my score dropped 10 points. Like, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. Your score dropped because your credit card usage went up. You're just not paying attention to the statement date because people don't know that the balances report on your credit cards the day after the statement date every month. So if you have 4 different cards and they report it 4 different times, you're going to see score adjustments depending on the usage on those cards at each point in that time in that month. It's very easy to identify. Your active scoring is entirely controlled by your unsecured credit ratios going up, down, etc. If you're somebody that doesn't spend on your credit cards ever, then you're probably not seeing a whole lot of adjustment. If you're somebody that doesn't have credit cards at all, your score probably just sits flat for a majority of the time. It's just how it is. Now, if you went to a car dealership, as happens a lot, and they run like 15 or 20 inquiries, yes, you're going to, in one day, yes, you're going to see a score adjustment because that's absurd, right? And it's criminal. So, I'm talking normal scenarios, 1, 2, 3, 4 inquiries is not going to destroy or torture a report. That has nothing to do with it. But the active scoring element is definitely unsecured ratios, which obviously the AU's assistant, because they bolster your limit, allow you the opportunity to blend out the ratio, right? So if you have a $500 card and you're maxed out on it, and somebody goes and adds you to a $10,000 AU, now you have a $10,500 in limits and only $500 usage, right? Your usage just went from 100% down to literally to 2%, 3%, something like that.
Yep.
So you're going to get about 40 points just from that because the credit ratios run on about a 40. It depends on the report and how thick they are, but typically on a 30 to 40 point swing, it can encumber that kind of a move in either direction, from the higher move being no usage to maxed out losing 30, 40 points potentially.
But people also got to be careful if they add those authorized users, because let's say, and correct me if I'm wrong, let's say I want a $10,000 credit card, right? And I add, isn't the saying, if I add a $10,000 credit card, am I more likely when I go and apply to get another $10,000 credit card?
Wait, say the last part again.
Okay, I want a $10,000 credit card, but I'm only paying on a $5,000 credit card showing. So I add an authorized user that's $10,000. So more than likely, when I go and apply, now that the bank see that someone extended to me $10,000 credit card, am I more likely to get that $10,000 credit card?
Yeah, there's other variables in there, but it sets a high watermark, right? Which we talk about in the funding system. It sets a high watermark for the overall process, right? And how that's being underwritten. Some of the banks these days that catch the AUs, a lot of them don't. And they don't have a way of weeding out. So yes, it looks as though you've been managing $10,000 of credit. So it gives them a high point of contrast that they can back in from the lending side, right? If you've only shown your whole life that you can juggle $1,000 limits, they're not going to turn around and float you $50,000. I got news for you on an unsecured level. They don't do that. Unsecured is a bank going out on a limb and giving you money with no collateral. So if you haven't shown that you can carry it, they're not going to just turn around and just overwhelm you with it just because you have a good score. It doesn't work like that. Right. So the idea behind AUs is, especially with some age, is that you set a high watermark there, and that high watermark allows, when you're running it through, their system, it allows them to see, okay, this individual has been managing a $10,000 card for 5 years, right? And then paying it and yada, 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 no late, et cetera, ratios low, income good. So it I don't want to say manipulates, because that's not a good word, but
it kind of does. It manipulates the scores.
It manipulates the scores. I'm thinking more from the approval perspective. It 100% manipulates the score, but I think that's... I don't see that as a bad thing, right?
No.
I don't look at that as being a bad thing. I think that's fair game, because what if your parent, I understand there's services out there that offer trade lines and they use this stuff and they sell them and whatever. But I mean, just imagine if you were just your mother added you to a card, right? Because a lot of our clients do that. We say that first and foremost, but when they got to have AUs, so you don't have to pay. See if anybody in your family member, close friend, something can add you. Just know that you can trust them. They'll keep your ratios low, et cetera. That's completely normal. I remember when I was a kid, they used to do that. That was the idea. Just you can start establishing.
That's how I started getting good credit back in the day when I was 17.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you start establishing credit. So I don't see anything wrong with that, right? Because it's all done, and I think the banks understand that. And I don't think anything wrong with it, period. But I'm saying I don't even see that being a manipulation. I think when it comes to the actual approvals, though, because you're dealing in an algorithmic state, right? And you're looking at it, and they're basing it off that high mark. So. You definitely need to add the AUs if you have a very thin file. You don't have a choice. Otherwise, you're going to have to just slowly work your limits up through increases over the course of time. That can take a while, because most lenders don't let you do. You have to wait at least 6 months. Some lenders are a year. You got to wait before you can ask for a limit increase. So it's not like something you can do every month just because you paid off the balance. I mean, it's something that can take some time if you're just going to groom it individually. But there's nothing wrong with that, too, if you got patient.
Yeah. Okay, somebody's calling me from 215 area code. That's around your area.
That's Philly, yeah.
Yeah. Someone around your area. 215. I don't know why they keep calling. But, okay. But, Jay, you got to be careful how many authorized users you add, because you're adding more debt onto your file when you go and apply. Is that correct, John?
Well, no, not technically, because most of the AUs that people add have no balance, right?
Okay, so but how about when we've gotten people who have 2 or 3 authorized users that are $20,000, right? And then they go and apply and they get denied, and they make 80 or 70 grand.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that, though. See, and I think the example you're giving, it's a little higher than that, not 2 or 3 20s. It's normally somebody that's got $80,000 in available, and then they go to apply for a bank for another $25,000. The bank's like, "What do you need $25,000 for? You got 80 available," right? So that's where the conversation comes into play. It's not a debt to income scenario. It's why would you need another 25? You know what I mean? I've seen that conversation take place. I've literally seen that conversation transpire where it's like, well, can you explain to us what you need another 25 for? You got 80 that is unused right now. Why would we extend another 25 to you? Because in all fairness, they don't put this money on the street to sit. That money that sits there, that 20 grand that sits there and being unused, they don't earn on that. Most of these credit card companies don't charge an annual fee. So when you don't use that money, they don't get paid on that money. So for you to just be stockpiling and not using it, they're going to ask you, well, look, and then the way people get around it sometimes is they try to shotgun it out, right? For lack of a better term. They'll apply 7 places at once the same day.
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, and it doesn't really work anymore, but it used to in the past. But where they'd shoot it all out in one day, get the approvals back, so the one lender didn't know the other lender didn't know the other lender, and that way they could get around it, right? But nowadays, there's safeguards in place relative to that. So you can't really do it as well as you could have done it in the past. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier, where the gaps get closed. They get closed. It's just the way it is, people. I mean, if you find an angle, anything banking related in life, and this pretty much goes for anything in life, that gap gets closed and it gets sealed. And when it's a bank, it gets sealed forever. So I'm not saying you couldn't submit to a couple places in the course of the day,
Okay.
I'm saying that it's not going to be like it was 5-6 years ago, where somebody could run away with it like that and get it all.
But John, how about I have different browsers on my computer, and I just press enter on all of them at the same time?
It's the same idea that you're just shooting it out all at the same time.
That's what people tell me all the time.
I know, but that's crazy, right? That's just crazy. I don't even know how to have that conversation. So, I mean, that's ridiculous. So, that's just absurd. That's just another, like.
But you remember there were some customers that we've had that they added three $20,000 credit cards, and then they added a $5,000 credit card, right? Authorized user. They got $65,000 worth of available credit on the credit report. They make $94,000. Right,
yeah.
But they still don't qualify for anything.
You mean on a documented perspective, or do you mean on a credit card perspective?
On a credit card perspective.
No, they do. It's just they're making 90. If they're stating 90 grand, right?
They have a different lifestyle. And
no. Hold on. Let's just do the math though. Go back to what we talked about earlier, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier with the. If they make 90 grand, let's just use your example. They make 90 grand a year, and that's roughly $7,200 a month gross. Okay. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you're using a 45% multiplier, which isn't the one the banks use, but let's just, for argument's sake, let's just say it's a 45% multiplier on 72. That's about $3,000 available. Then you have to back all your debts out of that. So if that guy's claiming that his rent is $2,000 a month, right? Now you just knocked down your $3,000 down to $1,000. Then you got your car payment. Your car payment's probably $500-$600, right? It's an average number. I think we said the average new car sales is $36,000. That payment's $700. So now you just took your $1,000 you had left over down to $300.
Correct.
So it becomes a situation where it's not there based on the ratio we break down in the funding system. Like that is a formula that gets used. That's all they use. So when you're seeing people not get approved, it's because they're levered up, and like the fact that he already has 65,000 extended in that situation would be tough for me to believe, because I don't think they would get that high, or if he did get that high, he got that high before he took on all the other debt. You understand what I mean?
Okay.
Because he wouldn't qualify for that otherwise if he would have backed into it the other way.
Okay. So what you're saying is the people with less debt showing on their credit report, and let's say a $10,000 credit card, they will more likely go and get more funding.
Look, if somebody was to come in, and just for argument's sake, I'll just do round numbers here, okay? Let's just say, because we did this on the mortgage side when we had the mortgage conversation. Let's just say somebody made $100,000. Okay, that's $8,000. That's $8,000 a month. And let's say they use a 45% multiplier, which again isn't a number, but I'm just going to use it for argument's sake. That would leave them about $3,500 in discretionary, right? And let's just say they live well within their means, right? Meaning they don't lever themselves up. They're very cost conscious. Let's say the rent's $700. They don't have a car payment. Say they have a $500 school payment. Okay, right. That means that's $1,200 total coming off the $3,200. They have a $2,000 discretionary number that can apply to credit at that point. There's somebody that would be marketable anywhere as long as they can document their income. They would have no problem getting funding anywhere in any capacity, whether it be credit cards. Now, granted, when they start to lever up and they go out and get their auto loan and their personal loan and their credit cards, obviously that's going to start to weigh on that ratio, and they're going to start to lean up against it, right? But that's the type of individual where the numbers work and everything adds up and everything gels, and they be able to probably get approved for a significant amount in that situation just because of the numbers I just put together. It's all about numbers, man. I mean, it really is. The history of the report is important. It's significant. And that's why we detail that in the system as well, what you need to do to get the report looking right. You know what I mean? But then from the point on, when the report looks right, it's all about the income backed into the debts. I mean, think about it. Banks are all about numbers, man. That's it. It's a numbers game. So, I mean, when you're breaking down these numbers, it sounds great that somebody, in your situation, the guy makes, $9,000 a year and he's got $65,000 available. That's spectacular. But, you're not breaking into all the other debts that go on and exist that when they're backing into it, they're utilizing and trying to determine if somebody is capable of borrowing more, And in a lot of cases, like we always talk about, people in society, they lever up to their nostrils. And there's not a lot of room for anything else.
Well, you're making $90,000 a year. I mean, the guy that I'm specifically talking about was from Texas. He was living in a $3,200 a month apartment.
Okay, so just do that math. I mean, just do that math. Just do that math. That's $8. Let's just do like $90,000 a year. Okay, So that's about $7,300 a month gross. At 45% multiplier, which is actually higher than the normal one, that leaves you about $3,000. He's living in a $3,200 a month. There's no money left, period. First of all, I don't know how somebody making $90,000 a year after taxes. That's $63,000.
John, there's people that live that way.
No. I'm saying he's losing money every month.
I know, but there's people who live that way.
I understand that. No. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, though, I don't know how somebody's losing money every month. They're confused why they're not getting approved for loans, right? How are you confused when you're losing money every month? If you're losing money, you don't think the bank knows you're losing money when you're submitting it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
If you're losing money every month and you're in the red every single month, it's fairly obvious to anybody that you want to do your best to try and get some kind of a change, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, it shouldn't come as a shock if you're unable to manage it to the black every month that nobody would lend to you because you're upside down in your own finances. Why would somebody want to lend to somebody that's losing money? That's like lending money to a business that's losing money that has no upside at that point and no way out. It doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
It's not logical. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why it would come as a shock to somebody that's making $90,000 a year and paying $3,200 a month in his rent. I mean, his rent is almost 40% of his pre-tax money. It is 40% of his pre-tax money. Correct. He's spending 40% of his pre-tax money on rent, correct, right? And his post-tax money, right? He's spending 80% of his post-tax money is going towards rent. That's insane.
I spoke to a truck driver girl, Louisiana, and she makes good money, and she was saying that she spends $3,000 in rent. I'm like, yo, why don't you go down to one bedroom studio, pay $1,000? She got offended.
No, listen, I'm not judging anybody. I'm saying that, like, if you're in that kind of a situation and you make $7,500 a month or something, $7,300 a month, and after taxes and everything, at the end of the day, when you get your money back, it's like $5,300 or something, and you're paying $32 out the door, or it's $5,000, you're paying $32 out the door. That leaves you make a good living, and you literally, you're left with, after you pay your utilities and your car and your gas. I mean, if you really break these down, because I've had to do this for all the different financials I got to do for clients and stuff, with the student loans and stuff, just the mandatory living expenses between groceries and car insurance, health insurance if your employer doesn't provide it, gas. I mean, these things are significant in a typical month, right? I mean, groceries alone can hit somebody if you live by yourself for $100 a week, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you got kids, that's easy, double that, right? That's $800 a month. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how you make that number work. I don't know how you survive on that. So that's what I'm saying. I just don't. I don't even know how the landlord put him in the house. I don't know how a landlord, because I own property. I don't know how anybody could even. You have to do some kind of financial auditing on a tenant. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's true. Well, I also get this other question, because we see files like the $5,000 primary trade lines that is out there that I recommend people getting. But then they add that authorized. They had that primary account, and they start paying month to month, because it's not an aged account. It's a primary account, and you pay month to month on that account, right? But then you add an authorized user that's 3 years old, $2,500, right, Jay? So when you go and apply for funding, do they look at that differently? Like, you had a $2,500.
I don't want to interrupt you, but do you mean $25,000? You mean $2,500?
$2,500 authorized user that's 3 years old, but yet they went and they got this primary account for $5,000.
Yeah, I don't understand what the purpose of getting a $2,500 AU would be in that instance. It doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
If you're paying if you just got a primary for $5,000, why would you add a $2,500 AU? I mean, why wouldn't you go higher than the primary? It doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
See, this is why I said, and this goes back, and again, I'm not judging anybody. I understand that everybody, that's doing this not for a living learns on the run, and sadly, the internet is where everybody gets a lot of their knowledge, and even more sadly, I've learned it's focused strictly on credit boards and these other areas that just populate the opposite of, in a lot of cases, reality, right?
Correct.
All due respect. So in situations like that, this is why it's important that you actually have somebody who knows what they're talking about to guide you. That's why we got to the point where we literally walk people through now.
Correct.
Because unfortunately, people will get their credit in place and then go jump on one of these boards or watch one of these ridiculous, smoke shop YouTube videos that tell you to go freeze this and burn that.
I got a question coming for you. That's about that.
Okay.
But like we were saying, it's crazy out there. Anyways.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to give the question now. So
no. I'm just saying.
This is exactly why we walk people through, because we've watched the good work that we do get compromised down the line by people following the wrong people, right? And that's why I was saying earlier that we're very fortunate now, and I'm grateful for it, that the clients give us the autonomy to walk them through, and they trust our judgment, and they trust that we have their best interests at heart to get them to that goal at the right rate, under the right circumstance, to meet the overall goal. And I think that should be the idea when you walk into one of these things. It doesn't need to be a segmented process, right? Correct. It doesn't need to be a staggered process where you only get advice on one leg of it and get the right education. Then you got to go trip over yourself for the next 3 legs, because in a lot of cases, this is a hard process getting your credit cleaned again. It's not something you can just keep doing over and over and over again. I mean, technically you can, but it gets harder each time as you come back, depending on the amount of accounts you add and so on and so forth. It's definitely not something that's easier every single time you come back and do it over and over again, right? So the goal should be to try and do it once and then use that as a lesson and then grow, functionally from that point forward. And that's, what we try to, with us walking the client through and everything, what we try to instill and just make sure. I mean, when you hear stuff like that about you're spending money on the primary for 5Gs and you spend who knows what on the 20, I didn't even know they gave $2,500 AUs.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know they sold them. I don't think $2,500 is a small amount of money. Don't misunderstand me. But if you're getting an AU, what are they going to charge for a $2,500 AU? I don't even know.
It could still be a $400 AU if it's like a 5-year-old $2,500 AU. It's still.
What is it? How much is it?
It could be $500, $400.
Oh, whatever. Well, that's a rip, man. That is a rip and a half. I mean, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. That's hard to believe. That's crazy. So, look, this is why anybody that's listening, this is why we advocate wholeheartedly if you have any friends or family. I know a lot of you don't, but if you do, let that be your first route. Now, obviously, Gizzy has a contact that he utilizes for the AUs that he can help you and assist you with that stuff if you need it. And I know a lot of you do. So, I mean, it's a supply and demand issue. But obviously, if you can avoid that and the cost and everything associated with it, I strongly advise it, because it can be cumbersome, and hard to digest when you listen to it sometimes.
Okay, so I got Nana, and Nana could be this example. I've been with. Oh, there you go. Nana needs credit repair, and she's asking, I need full total credit repair. I've been with American Credit Repair for about 6 months. I've not seen anything done. Should I tell them to stop? I just paid their final payment. So this is another thing why we only take a one-time fee and we commit to the file until everything is removed. But a lot of you, which, sometimes, Jay, these people don't have the full money up front, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So, they rather go and they get enticed by the $99 a month place or $50. I've seen $50 a month places. You know what I'm saying? And it's only a 6-month thing. So after 6 months, they don't do nothing for you. They can't guarantee you anything because it's illegal to guarantee.
No, but that's it. But everybody, look. I don't want to go in here just trashing other companies or people or stuff. But everybody that follows this channel or is listening to this right now is smart enough to be able to identify somebody that is actually trying to help and somebody that's literally just trying to get money, right? I mean, if you're in it if they only do 6-month runs and they're hitting you with a fixed cost, I just don't know what the motivation is to get you off of that. It's so difficult for me to rationalize as a business owner. If I'm charging somebody, for a fixed period of time, like that makes no sense to me. It's so transparent to me as far as how can you convince the consumer that you have their best interest at heart when you give them a 6-month limit and it always runs up to the 6 months and you don't ever get them done sooner, right? Like how do you convince the consumer that you're really trying to get their stuff done? Now, obviously we put I know that our pricing model isn't, for the people that start with us, it requires them to save and it requires them to get in, but they know they're in good hands when they start, right? They don't make another payment after that. If it takes us a period of time, that's on us. We eat that extra money that that we're taking, that it takes to get it done. If we get done quicker, which we're obviously motivated to because we make more money if it gets done quicker, then obviously that's on us too. But it leaves the ball in our court to either feast or famine on that file, right? I mean, some files get done very quickly. Like we talked before, we've got files done in 24 hours.
Yes.
I've got some files back the same day. If it's like one or two accounts and we've disputed online. I mean, that's obviously not the norm. I'm just making a point. In situations like that, when we price and we get it back, we make the profit on that particular file is a lot more than one that might take us 6 months, right? Correct. So, the point I'm trying to make, though, is I just don't know how. I mean, I know it's a mean to an end, right? I get it. People want to get in and they want to start, like, their mind is set on wanting to start working the credit repair process. And they want to start getting that momentum going, and they find something that works within their budget. The problem is goes with credit repairs, goes with life. Unfortunately, you get what you pay for, right? And at the end of the day, I mean, when you're looking at this, is why I didn't ever, and I still don't. I'm not really fond of it. The pricing model of monthly, because it's impossible up front to be able to give a client an exact amount of time it's going to take to get their file done. Correct. And that's why we go in and we impress upon clients so aggressively the fact that, listen, this is a process, because we want them to be prepared to just, commit, right? Just commit to us and we'll get you where you need to be. Set it and forget it, right? That doesn't mean there's not people that just come in and they get done immediately, right? We got them in a house. Like the one client before is, Dante,
yes.
Like a week or two ago, one of the testimonials. I mean, he came in first dispute and a half. We got him ready for the mortgage. He wasn't even thinking about a house.
Correct.
Got him ready for the mortgage. He closed on his house in 3 months after, from when we started. He was brought into the process though. He's still, he's a really good client, but he was bought into it from the beginning. He was ready to. If it took a while, he was fine, but it came all quick. Right. Correct. So like if we do that and we get you prepared to buy in and we get it done in a minute, then that's great because you're ecstatic, right? But if we keep it within the confines of what we're proposing as far as an expectation, then we hit our mark, right? And we're not disappointing. I mean, you don't ever want to overpromise to a client. I just think that's just the opposite way of doing things. Unless you're unless your overall goal is to just argue with your clients every day. I think the objective would be to try and set. I don't want to argue with nobody.
We already got. This is the thing.
What I'm saying, because we said, but we go out of our way to set an expectation, and then I repeat it over and over and over. I mean, I can tell you the amount of clients of ours that I understand it's a process. I know it's I love the process. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the GM of the Sixers back when they stunk all those years. That was his thing. He called it the process. We call it that's everybody buys into the process, and the reality is the process will work. If you allow it to, you just got to commit. I really don't know. I can't speak for these other companies that charge monthly. I'm sure there's ones that are good. I really am. I'm sure there's ones that are sincere. It'd be crazy for me to suggest that they aren't. I just can't. Given the limited amount of time that we did that, right, where we charge people monthly and we kind of test drove it, you can tell every month that the money's coming out of the client's pocket. They want an explanation for why it wasn't done in that month, because now it's impacting them, right? Every month It becomes another bill for them. It becomes another debt they need to be aware of. It's impacting this purchase that month or that purchase that month. And if something happened to their car that month, that money is expendable because you're the credit repair guy, right? But they don't want to because they're trying to get it. You know what I mean?
But John, some people look at money differently too, because we've got customers that were paying for 2 years $100 to a specific company, and they're like, "I'm just paying $100," and yet you got somebody that's been paying for 6 months who is like pissed off.
Yeah, no, listen, but I know. Well, look, I think that, and this goes for anybody. Like there was a woman I spoke to today, later on in the day, who was with one of the monthly companies. I'm not going to say who it is, and she was like, "I've been there 6 months, 7 months, or 8 months, something like that." Excuse me. And she was like, "I'm just tired of it." She goes, "I'm not seeing anything done, and I just want to move on." And I think that part of the problem is, look, I've seen people that have come to License Law and then come to us and they've been like, they've done nothing, and you can tell they've done something, right? Like you go through it, you see there's accounts removed, but they don't communicate with their clients anything. Like from what I understand, I think from what I've been told by clients, again, I'm not here to dump on it, but I think that it's more of a much more informal type of communication, right? You call, you get a different person each time. You don't have a point of contact.
Correct.
Trying to get breakdowns and such is kind of pushed off on the CRM that they offer. Trying to get any more specificity. If you're somebody that doesn't understand credit in the first place because you're going to an expert to do it, and you're not getting that hands-on approach, right? That explanation or that detail. Of course, you're not going to think anything was done because in reality, nobody explained you what was done. You're looking at a CRM portal that they're basically using as a curtain to keep between you and them communicating, and they're expecting you to interpret that properly. That's not real. I mean, that's not the right way to do it if you're really trying to help somebody. If you're trying to avoid contact, like communication, you're doing that for a reason, right?
Correct.
Like, we don't avoid communication. I'm the opposite of avoiding communication.
Correct.
You know, I mean, because I've learned that the only way to keep a client informed, to keep them comfortable and keep them happy is to communicate. I mean, it goes for anything in life, though. And I think that sometimes with some of these companies, I think that's where the problem comes. I think they do good work because we do get a lot of roll-off. I think some of them do good work. I know Lexington Law does some good work because we get a lot of the roll-off stuff. But at the same time, I just don't think that the client is properly informed. And I think that indecision goes back to what I was saying earlier about the trust factor, right?
Correct.
When you see somebody hitting you for $100 a month for 8 months and nobody's talking to you, nobody's communicating with you, getting pointed to a website to analyze your progress,
Yep.
nobody's interpreting that for you, you're going to feel like you're getting taken, right? You're going to feel like nobody's paying attention to you. You're going to feel like, you know, you're
going to be lost. You're going to be lost.
Yeah, and then you're going to say, you know what, forget it.
Yeah.
I need to deal somewhere where I'm comfortable. And, you know, again, this approach has all come through trial and error and just dealing with consumers for so long. But I just think that the communication element is one of the most important parts of the entire process, right?
Especially with a file like hers, where she wrote down, you know, 2016, 2019, I had evictions, collections, 3 repossessions from a BMW and Mercedes finance. I mean, that's a rough file too. So if you're lost, you know, if they can explain to you what they've done, that's hard pill to swallow.
I just think again, it all goes back to just the lack of overall understanding, people not knowing where to go to get a firm understanding, right? Like a firm base of knowledge on what is right and wrong in this. And this is part of the reason why we're doing this. Correct. Because there's a very clear right and wrong in some of these credit terms. Credit repair itself may deal in a gray area, meaning it's not binary, right? Like it's not like hiring a landscaper to come out and cut your lawn. He comes at 1, he's out by 1:30, right? Credit repair, it's gray. It deals in gray areas, but the rules surrounding credit are very black and white. I mean, there's no confusion there.
Correct.
And I feel like the one thing that the internet does is it stirs up, and some of these other people, and there's tons of them, they stir up confusion, right? Because they try to implement these other scenarios, and all it does is confuse an already confused consumer, right? So they don't know who to believe. They don't know if it's a scam. They can't tell if it's a joke. They don't know anything. That's why I say sometimes it completely baffles me how, like, people will go, rather than, like, you know, because I mean, look, I know you've been posting the success videos of our clients that for what, 10 years, 7, 8 years, something like that. Yeah. And they're consistent, right? It's not like they're like here and then you disappeared for 5 years and stopped doing it and started doing it again 2 years. Yeah. It's been consistent, right? But then you still have people that have been following you for 6 years, still haven't moved forward. Just been monitoring you for 6 years, right? Like they're waiting for the day that it turns out that Gizzy isn't doing what he says he's going to do, right? Well, look, I got news for it. That's not going to happen, though, right? So it's almost like you know, they're watching just because they want to prove themselves right.
Yes.
Maybe you aren't.
Because they want to be right. They want to be right.
Yeah, they want to be right rather than move forward because they want to convince themselves it was the right idea not to move forward, right?
Correct.
Because they want to say, I had him pegged, you know? And the reality is it's not true. Correct. It's not true. It's been going on for almost 10,000 clients now. I mean, you're talking about a situation where it's like you're going to go and you're going to risk with all these other fly-by-nighters and all these other situations, the gimmicks, things. And I say, why on earth? It's the same with the system. There's so many systems out there right now, right? I feel like we were kind of the early stages of it, and ever since then, you see all these different systems that come out now. But you see all these other systems that are out there now, and it's like some of them have been around and have a lot of success, including ours. I don't know why people don't just isolate themselves to those systems. Why are they out searching for like gimmicky systems, right?
Correct.
Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like why make your life more difficult? You know, like it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it at all. I do understand the consumer, but I don't understand the idea of trying to figure out a way to make it more difficult. If you were doing anything else, like if you were hiring a plumber, if you were hiring a real estate agent, you know, like you would go with somebody who has a track record. You wouldn't go with the new guy on the block that's promising you everything. Well, you shouldn't. That's promising you everything, but he's got no experience, no history, no resume, etc. Right?
Correct.
That's what you would naturally do because you're going to look at the guy across from him and you're going to make that decision. I don't understand people. It's like they get out of their minds sometimes when deciding what they're doing with their credit because so many people confuse them and they're just so confused about what's right, wrong, up, down, in, out. You know what I mean?
And then when they gone through all the other people, results, they come to us.
And they finally say, you know what?
We're too expensive.
No. Listen, I always say this. I say this all the time. We're the first stop and we're the last stop.
Correct.
Right? So
that is true.
They come up. We give a price. No, you're too expensive. Then they go to every single smoke shop on the street, and then 3 years later they come back, and their credit looks a hair better than it did 3 years before. It's been grinded down, right, to no end, and we give them the same price because we're not scumbags, and it ends, and we end up being the ones that take them to where they need to be at the end of the story, right?
And that's where you got an appreciative customer right there too.
Say that again?
That's when you have an appreciative customer.
Right, but that happens a lot though. Over the years, that's happened a lot because we're the ones that end up getting it, and we at that point they've gone to everybody else and they say, look, you know, I should in some cases, not everybody has the, you know. Some people have pride and they don't want to admit what they already know. But
a lot of people have pride.
Right. In some instances, but you'll have people that'll just be like, look, I should have started you at the first place, you know, and I didn't. And it's fine. Look, everybody has to arrive at it their own way and it's their own journey. So it is what it is.
Until I hit them over the head with credit repair results videos. That's how they come. I've seen him. You know what? Like the guy from Virginia who got the condo. He's like, I just saw him for over a year. I saw he was constantly getting people results. I'm gonna keep hitting you.
But here's what's funny to me though. Like, and again, and yes, I know that's where it all comes from, and I get it though, right?
Correct.
Like if you're, it completely makes sense. If you got somebody pumping out, like if I was a stranger walking in, looking in, I always think about trying to be empathized and look from the outside in. If I'm not doing this for a living and I'm looking for somebody that does it, and I see some guy pumping out results videos for 10 years, right? So 8 years, 7 years, something like that. I mean, and there's not like wide scale, like complete carnage of him on, you know what I mean? Like everybody coming up with stuff to trash him or something like that.
Right.
That should be very telling to you, right? Correct. Like that it's actually working. I mean, if you're seeing consistent result videos and you're not seeing people trash him or you don't see people rip the company apart, that normally means it's a functional company. I mean, it means that the company's doing what they say they're going to do.
We're not going to make everybody happy though, because there are a percentage of people who just be like 3% of people who are crazy that come through. We see it on a yearly basis. But this year was pretty good.
Honestly, we talked about this like a couple months ago. Every single year it's gotten less and less though.
Correct.
It really has. I mean, going back to whenever, and it was a lot back then to where we're at now, every year it gets less and less and less. And I think it's because every year we get a little bit better at figuring out what the consumer needs as far as what makes them comfortable in the process, what we can do to better the process, how we can get better at the process, and then introducing other ways to kind of get them to their goal. Because that's at the end of the day, that's all they want.
Yeah.
The client just wants to get to their goal. And a lot of people, that's a house. A lot of people that's a new car in the moment. A lot of people, that's a combination of things, right? They have a lot of hair they got to pull off of it and put it back together. And they just want to get there. So, I mean, I think once you can get on the same page with the client and communicate on this, together, I think that makes the situation so much easier. And especially when they know you have their best interest at heart and that you're going to get them where they need to be because they've seen it over and over and over again. I think it introduces a nice level of consistency. And but definitely it's gotten less and less over the years, though, as far as the problem clients.
The problem clients. Okay, now I got another question. From Jimbo, if someone gets $1,000 card from Navy Federal from having account in 4 days, how can they get 20,000 from that same card on personal side?
That doesn't make any sense to me.
So if someone gets $1,000 card from Navy Federal from having an account in 4 days, so you went to Navy Federal and you got a $1,000 credit card in 4 days. That's my understanding. And you want to know, how can you get 20,000 limit from that same card? There you go. That's what he said.
So he wants to figure out a way to increase the limit on the $1,000 credit card that he's only had 4 days to 20,000?
Yes.
No.
But how can he increase? Let's start there. Let's not go from here to here. Let's go from here to here.
So going back to what we talked about earlier,
it's all on the income.
No, because they obviously they arrived at that $1,000 priority based on income and all the finances, right? That's what he got approved for based upon underwriting, and maybe his credit is maybe has some imperfections that could have led to that as well. But with Navy Fed's a great institution, right? But I think they're the biggest one in the country. But they, as far as credit unions are concerned,
yes.
But they only limit to certain. You have to be Navy or a family member of somebody in the Navy or something like that. But yeah, they're very specific about who they offer. But that being said, most lenders only let you apply for a limit increase every 6 months, and I think Navy Fed's the same way. So if you take that into consideration, they're not going to go from 1 to 20 in one run. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to groom the account, you may be able to get in 6 months when you go to ask for a limit raise. It may go from 1 to 3, 1 to 4, depending on how your situation improves or things improve financially. I don't know the whole situation, so it's difficult for me to give a specific breakdown. But typically speaking, obviously the income plays into it. Credit imperfections would have a lot to do with it. If your income's strong and your credit and you're riddled with debt, obviously that's going to leave very little discretionary for you, like we talked about earlier, to apply towards those debts. So the good thing about Navy Fed, the good thing about some of these other large credit unions is credit unions are different from retail banks in that, again, they don't borrow from the Fed, but they're much more of an old school style banking where the more seniority you have there, the more they're willing to lend to you under certain circumstances. They're not so fixed. If you've been a member of that particular credit union for a period of time, they're normally a little more lax on the underwriting side of it. Plus, in all fairness, they're designed to help military related people like some other ones. So, a lot of the money that they raise that goes into growing their particular credit union in the prospectus, it's designed to go back into this. So they have to be flexible to a certain degree. In his case, opening the account 4 days ago and getting 1,000, he's going to be waiting a while to get to 20. And I mean, he can add an AU, do whatever he wants to try and do that. But there was obviously something else in there that only got him 1,000. We'd have to see the report and go through some of the other numbers in order to be able to see what that was. And then
I think this was the customer that started like 2 days ago from Michigan.
A customer of ours?
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Michigan.
Yeah, my brain's. I
think
got a cell phone to my ear.
No. I mean, that's his name on YouTube. People got nicknames on YouTube.
Yeah, we didn't have anybody start 2 days ago from Michigan.
He said he was going to start, so he probably hasn't started.
Nah, he didn't start.
Okay.
Nah, so so he'd have to groom. And if it is who I'm thinking, if it was a guy that I think he's from last week, he had sent over for a quote last week. I'm pretty sure I know who it is. And and if I remember who it is, there's some work that needs to be done on the file in general, right? So I remember specifically, and if I can remember almost identically, I think his Equifax, which is what Navy Fed now pulls Transunion, I think. So I think his Transunion was one of the better ones. That might have been why it was approved, but it was also really, really, really thin. So I may be confusing some specifics to it, but if he if he wants us to look, I'd be happy to look at it and give him some advice. But it's going to be very difficult to go from 0 to 60 in a very short period of time like that when you've already been approved. You'd be better served applying for a different product after your situation gets better, and then getting limit increases every 6 months when you can re-up with them if the situation continues to improve.
There you go. Okay. So the rapper 78, can you work with someone to get business funding? But you said business funding is totally different than personal funding, correct?
Oh yeah, business funding totally different. I mean, real business funding. Yeah. Again, I don't want to turn this into a business funding conversation, but I'll go through it. like real business funding, like where you go get unsecured lines of credit or like business loans, whatever, like where you go into a real bank like a Chase or a PNC or a Wells or something like that, or even an SBA loan, like real stuff where you get real money, not like where you had a company that just opened like 15 minutes ago and, you're trying to get business credit cards. If that's what he's talking about, there's a significant difference in that, right? Like if you're a functional business and you make money, we have all the outlets in the world possible that you can, and you can document income.
Correct.
We can help you raise as much money as you want to raise, right? Assuming it works within the confines of the formulas that are used by the banks. But on the unsecured, like just the business credit card stuff, we could help, but it's just, I mean, it still comes back to the personal credit anyway. So it's not like just because you have a business that's in good standing and may have an 80 paydex or whatever people are doing these days, it ends up being something you still have to have good personal credit anyway, and you're still going to have to personally guarantee it and kind of groom it and grow it and everything like that. So, I mean, it's a lot easier, kind of doing it, growing and raising large amounts of money for companies that are actually established. But I mean, we can help if a client needed it, like an existing client. Like that wouldn't be something I'd want to do by itself. But if it was an existing client or somebody that got started on the credit side, I wouldn't mind including it just to hit a goal.
Yeah, I think he's a customer, so just email us and ask us, and we'll let you know this is something you can do. All right. So I have another question, which is something that. So yes or no, right? Like on the $99 credit repair system, should I sign the dispute letters at the bottom?
Yes.
Question mark. I heard that your signature could get manipulated by the creditor. Is that true?
Oh my goodness, where does this stuff come from? Like how could listen, this isn't me.
Jay, look, this is what I'm thinking that they're thinking. Maybe they right? The bureaus, they scan the page.
No, she said creditors.
Yeah.
Not credit bureaus.
I heard that your signature could get manipulated by the creditor. Is that
creditor is the lender?
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not trying to make a joke out or be sarcastic with the woman asking the question. Or a man asking the question. They obviously heard it somewhere. I'm just trying to understand who could have originated a story like that and how they could justify it and rationalize it. But no, that when you submit a dispute to the bureaus, okay, it basically goes into their system, and then they communicate with the creditor through a system called eOscar, right? It's a coding system. So the creditor doesn't get copies of what you send in. They get notified through that system of what the dispute is pertaining to and the different aspects of it, and they respond accordingly, right? And that's why, if you've ever noticed, when you dispute with a creditor, they have to, by law, send you copies and rule out that, they'll send you a letter. Every credit account you dispute has to send you a letter acknowledging the dispute, ruling out fraud, and then, acting like they did their own investigation on it. They do that because they don't pilfer that stuff through the bureaus. They do that directly to you because they communicate with the bureau's system called eOscar, which is a coding system which allows them to do millions and millions and millions of disputes on a daily basis. Remember, going back to the many casts we've done over the last week, Experian is the biggest bureau of the three. They have 16,000 total employees as of 2018, 2019. There's 350-some million people in this country with a credit file. So obviously, the system is run completely autonomously through an algorithm, right? And the people that are there, 15,000, 16,000, are for the fraud unit and for IT support. That's all that is, to manage the algorithm. So the reality is that there's no instance where they could manipulate your signature. There's just none. There's not a possibility, because they wouldn't even get a copy of the dispute you submit to be able to see it. They don't get a copy of the dispute you submit, the creditor themselves, and they get to be like, well, I don't believe this. Let me try and smudge this signature out and send it back and make it not match. It just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So to answer the question, no. Yes, you should sign it, because they likely they won't accept it if you don't. And B, in all the years doing this, I have never heard even a story about a creditor even getting a hand on a dispute, much less manipulating a signature with it.
Okay. All right, you got that question. The real JL. All right, let's go another question. The One Genesis Project. Hello, excellent products. Has the funding system updated, or is it the same as the one offered a while back?
Well, there's not. Again, this goes back to the repair side of things, right? The way they arrive at approvals hasn't changed. Like, there's no modification in that. They've been using debt to income ratios on mortgages the same way since the start of time, right? Since the start of lending. So the only thing that adjusts is the actual multiplier. The same goes for the way they arrive at credit card approvals, the way they arrive at personal loan approvals. There's nothing to change. This isn't an evolving business on the credit bureau side. You know, this isn't an evolving business in how they arrive at approvals. Like the mortgage underwriting process, the credit card underwriting process, the personal loan underwriting process, it's been the same forever. The formulas that they use, the multipliers that they use, the debt to income ratios they use, the income requirements may deviate depending on the economic cycle, but it's all the same underwriting process with the same way they back into a number. So from that perspective, no, there would be no reason to change it. If we change it, we'd be repeating it. Otherwise, why would we? If it's not broken, don't fix it. If it's a situation that has changed or somehow changes, I would trust me. We'd love to come out with an additional system, right? That would address any adjustments that go on in the overall system, but there's not. And this goes back to what we talk about forever, which is that all these little gimmicks that prop up everywhere and disappear 15 minutes later. That's what they're gimmicks.
Correct.
They're trying to sell a different idea that doesn't need to be sold. So to answer our question, it's the same system as far as all the details of it. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, yes, and yes.
Well, here's one of those things, John, from Black, right? He says, "Hey, Gizzy, why is it so hard to get rid of inquiries, even when Sage Stream is frozen?"
Oh, we're doing the frozen again. Is that right? You know,
Sage
look,
Stream.
we had a really, I don't know if that.
We had a lengthy conversation. Look, I think I'm gonna make a video specifically on that.
Hold on, I'll talk about it real quick. We had a lengthy conversation about the freezing of the Sage Stream and the LexisNexis and the blah, blah, blah. And you know, we went through it in depth. And at the end of the, and you can listen to it towards the end when we were answering questions. One of the viewers came on and said, "Look, that stuff." You know, and now I don't believe in it. And I don't co-sign it, and I certainly don't advocate it. But one of the guys came through and was like, "No, it doesn't work. I've tried it. It absolutely doesn't work." Blah blah blah.
He was
the
same person who asked the question, and he was like, "It doesn't even work."
Right. So, was it the same person that asked the question?
Yeah, it was the same person who asked the question because he wanted to know if there's another hustle, because it's all a hustle.
Yeah, it is a hustle. But to answer this guy's question, we don't even engage in that stuff. That's smoke as far as I'm concerned. So you can freeze everything, and I don't know what one would have anything to do with the other. I know how it's pitched. I know how it's presented, and I know it hooked a lot of people. I know, based upon what we heard, a lot of those people, including the guy the other day that brought it up and then told us it didn't work after, evidently, was very disappointed with it. So I can't comment on it because, again, we don't have to play the smoke game. We don't have to sell people on mystery. We can just sell people on facts, and that's all we kind of deal with is results and concrete things that they can wrap their head around that actually work and get them from point A to B quicker, if not more consistently than any other system I've seen. So unfortunately, I can't answer about Sage Stream because we don't do that stuff. And
correct.
Getting inquiries off themselves, it can be a process. And I think most people that are disputing inquiries know that you shouldn't be disputing inquiries that are tied to unsecured credit cards.
Correct.
Because you run the risk of them potentially closing it. So definitely be conscious of that as well.
Correct. So Freddie, I think it's Freddie Castellan, which has been a customer from Texas for a very long time. He asks, would the funding system work for business?
No, not the personal one. No, because the personal one just shows personal lenders.
The professional funding system, you think?
What's that?
The professional funding system?
I mean, you can certainly try it. I don't know if Freddie's been a client of ours, so I'm not sure that's what Freddie's trying to do. But I mean, if he wants a more lengthy list that he can use on the business side, the professional one would probably.
And the professional one is more it costs more money than the $99 system, by the way.
Yeah, exponentially more money.
Exponentially more money.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want a number, it's $950. Am I right, John?
Yeah.
$950 for the professional funding system. We don't. If you're gonna do that personally, I mean, if you want to recoup that $950, I mean, if you're in the credit repair business, yes, because you'll recoup that money. But if you're gonna do it personally, I mean, if you end up getting more than $950 out of your knowledge and getting it, then it was a good deal for you. But you think it's mainly for people in the business, right, John?
I would advise it just for people in the business because I mean, look, it's not a cheap expenditure, right? And granted, you will make the money back quickly, but it really depends. Look, everybody's interest gets piqued a different way. So
correct.
Some people want to go down. Some people go all in on certain things, and whether they turn into a business or not, they like having the idea and the knowledge, and it is what it is. So to each his own. But I mean, if you're asking my opinion, I think that the better idea would be to for people that are either trying to get into that next level of this business, and have wider exposure. And
we'll have another video on a credit repair business area. We'll have another video on that, another live cast. Right. Okay. Yeah. So what site do you recommend for us to get for you to see our reports for a quote? I just answered that question. Experian.com. And my email.
Right, or just to be clear, just for the sake of the scoring, right? I just want to be clear about this because we don't want look, I'd say on a given day we get a lot of people reach out for quotes, right? Which we appreciate, right? A percentage of that starts, right? Correct. So some people save up, some people don't come back. They just want to know what the score is. So for the sake of you guys not wasting money if you intend on starting, we can price it out with Credit Karma, and that covers 2 bureaus, and you can set up the free Experian. Both of them are free. It doesn't require any money out of you or credit card or free trial, none of that. You can just send us over those two. We can take a look. We can price it out, send it back. And obviously, if you want to move forward, we'd love to help you. But if you still need to think about got to save or you're not sure, then obviously this way you can commit to any of the monitoring sites just to get a cost.
Okay. But once you start the credit repair process,
we need Experian. Yeah,
you need Experian. Forget about Credit Karma. Delete it from your phone and everything.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So please repost this video so that I can see it all. Okay, I will. It's gonna be reposted. Yes, repost. Okay. Nana, Gizzy, I was paying 100. Look at Nana. This is the girl who went to the American Credit Repair.
I know. I remember.
I was paying $165 per month for 6 months. Apart from initial $199 processing fee I initially paid. It's so sad and a waste of my money and time. I can't even get $300 loan.
Yeah, see, look, I don't know anything about the situation. It sounds like she's upset about the fact that she went 6 months, and it sounds like she came out of pocket $1,400, and she's sitting. She's done with them, made her last payment, and she's no closer to her goal than she was 6 months ago, and when she was $1,400 or $1,500 richer. So I'm sorry to hear that. That's kind of why we do this stuff. So
correct, Nana.
This is a large part of why one of the main reasons why we're doing these videos is to both educate, let people know the level of knowledge the person that's working on your report has and the expertise surrounding it, and just knowing the sincerity of what it is that we have as far as wanting to get you where you need to be. Unfortunately, I feel bad for her that she ran into that problem, but
she's not. She's commented more. So let's get there, because she commented more, and sometimes, I'm looking at the stuff and I'm seeing how people do they do whatever it takes, and they go backwards or they start backwards instead of going forward, because she also said, yes, she's answering black, right? Nana said, you could have used that money you use for a credit repair to get a high limit secure card and build your credit like that. Okay, so that's,
just to be clear, don't ever that's not a high limit secured card.
Correct, but wait, she answered.
I mean, can we try to keep the bad knowledge off the video?
But John, I know, pero espérate, wait, she answered back. I'm telling you, she goes from backwards. You're gonna get educated, Nana. Okay, Nana says, oh yes, I got 2 secure cards. I also later got 4 unsecured $300 cards each, but some has high annual fees. Then I did my Jewelers Club, which is the $5,000, and another $5,000 just reported. But she still got these repos, these negative items that need to be removed first. So what do you think, John?
I'm trying to add up in my head how much money she spent on this thus far, and she's still at the same place she started. I mean, this is why we say earlier, without going into a specific situation, this is why we say earlier, it's so important about positioning yourself with the right people to guide you in the right area. Who would have told you to add all these authorized users and primaries and such in the middle of the process when you haven't gotten further along? You're just wasting money. I mean, there's no point in adding it. Even if your score went up like 30, 40 points and you're at 600, but you got 4 repos and whatever else you got, nobody's lending you money anyway. It's just a psychological victory that you're at 600. It's not getting you any closer to the money. I mean, the way we tell clients is if you need to add AUs, you need to add trades, whatever, let us get the report done. We'll know about a couple weeks out from when we're going to finish. Then you can add them. We'll tell you, we'll give you the heads up. This way you can get as close to time it out as when the file's going to complete and when they can roll on. This way you can be as efficient with your dollars as possible, right? As far as the secure card is concerned, just please, I mean, just on its face alone, you're giving money to a bank.
This is a secure credit. This is what a secure credit card is. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, secure credit card is you're giving money to a bank to lend back to you at an inflated interest that they keep. So they somehow have convinced you as a consumer that it makes sense for you to give them your money that they're charging you 15, 20% interest on to pay them interest on your money while they lend you your money. I mean, just in theory, doesn't that sound moronic? Now, back in the past, the reason why it worked in the past, going back 50, 60 years, right, is what would happen is when banking started, you would go in, and basically, you would provide collateral to a bank. You'd give them, you'd back a loan that they take out, and that was your way of building up credit with that bank. Okay, right. Back when we didn't have algorithms, and it was all mom and pop neighborhood banking. Right. That's where the secured loans came from. They collateralize it with cash. They may give you a little more, but it'd be secured a little more and a little more and a little more, and it would allow you the opportunity to extend credit. So now they've just kept it through. They've convinced people that somehow it helps. Here's the problem. The problem is that essentially when people take out these secured credit cards, number one, it shows secured, but it impacts your unsecured credit ratios. Most people that get them keep them maxed out because what ends up happening is they take all the money back out and it's a maxed out card the entire time, which knocks down your unsecured credit ratios. So if you're somebody that went, by the way, no disrespect to whoever Black is, but to put a high, let's say you put $15,000 on a secured credit card. You said a high limit secured credit card at 15%. I mean, can you imagine the amount of money that bank's going to throw a party for you when you come in with that? Can you imagine how much money they're going to make on that over the course of time on your money? While your money sits there, doesn't earn any interest, and you're spending it, and they're charging you interest on your money. That's crazy. That's absurd. That's fiscally irresponsible. It would be even crazier if you're taking $10,000, $15,000 and you're not applying it in appropriate places. Because you could invest that money, take a small portion of putting it into AUs that you could put on the report, help grow the score of the report, and take the rest of it and put it into something earning interest where you're not wasting it on a secured credit card where it's tied up and you're paying somebody to lend your money to you at interest they're keeping. Correct. So, I mean, there's no scenario where, unfortunately, that makes sense. But the reality of it, though, is that this is what we do for clients. So Correct. This is, I understand that probably both of them, maybe they were guided. Maybe they ran on their own. Maybe somebody told them that. I don't know.
All right. And Nana, this is not to get to you. I just want to say thank you for commenting and letting us speak on the subject.
Yeah, for sure.
This is not for you. This is like a forum. Mad people are going to watch this. This video is going to have 1,000 views in a month or 2 weeks. And a lot of people are going to get an understanding of what your situation was, because a lot of people may be in your situation.
Thank you to anybody. Same with whoever Black. Thank you guys for sharing your comments. Okay, with us talking about it. I mean, this is in no way trying to be critical of anybody. This is more trying to demonstrate the difference between the edge that we're able to provide in positioning the clients to where they need to be and how important it is. Right? Like going back to Nana's situation, who knows how much? I mean, she knows. I mean, it sounds like she spent $1,500 on just the service. I believe she said she had a couple AUs. She had a couple secured cards. And I mean, who knows? She's got to be into it for a couple G's at this point, and she's still at square one. I mean, that's money she's not getting back. And that's money that has a time horizon on it, right? It has an end date to it, especially the AUs. So it's like it has to be done strategically, or else you flush money down the toilet, and it becomes a vicious cycle of bad decisions and bad guidance. And that's what we keep impressing on the fact of trying to position people properly so that they don't. And you know what ends up happening with our clients? They end up educating themselves throughout the process, right? When we tell them what they need to do and how they need to do it, and they because the way we propose it and the way we explain it, they're able to wrap their brain around it, and they learn the whole process through. So it becomes an educational process too for our clients. So definitely not to call out Nana, but thank you for sharing, all the specifics around your situation. I'm sorry you experienced it, but At the same time, it just gives you a point of reference of what whoever you line yourself up with next time, whether it's us or another company, what you don't want to do, right? I mean, I think you gave yourself the what not to do lesson. Now you can work, you know what you don't want.
And reach out. She said she wrote she's going to reach out to us. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to, with that, email you on Monday. Okay, no. You come to us. We've had people that have gone through company to company. They come to us. And that's why we like to have these testimonials too, because people jump company to company and they come to us, they get educated, they get what they want, and then they move forward with life.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. So someone else said, thanks for answering my question. I understand. Cool. Appreciate dropping dimes. Hey, Gizzy. Gizzy, is the professional system for credit repair and funding?
They're two separate ones.
There's a professional
credit repair system, which is strictly for credit repair, which is the online. It incorporates the exact same process we use on our end, everything down to the T. And then there's the professional funding system. They're two separate, independent of each other. They're not combined.
Correct. So the best place seems to be just to get you and John to do it all. Oh, wow. Thank you. The Genesis Project. Oh, man, dropping dimes on real dollars. I respect the constructive criticism, guys. Oh, that's Black. No problem, Black. This is for you too, bro. Gizzy, I really appreciate it. I never knew better. Nana. It's okay, Nana. Don't worry about it. We're going to get you. Share this video. Like the content. More people could see it. We already been with John 2 hours, and this is we could talk about this like forever, right? So this is the second podcast.
That's why we're trying to, it's easy to come up with these topics because this is stuff we've been talking about with clients for 10 years, right? So this is stuff that we see on a daily basis. And I don't want anybody that's listening to this that didn't understand, that maybe this isn't understood. Like, it's the one common denominator that exists in our society is the lack of understanding surrounding credit and debt. And I think part of me believes that's done intentionally, right? A large part of me thinks that's done intentionally, because why wouldn't you teach that in school? We learned some of the most ridiculous stuff in school growing up and even in college, right? I mean, absurd stuff that you won't ever use in life, but somehow, some way, through every level of school and through college, you don't learn one thing about credit or debt. Nothing.
Correct.
Right? And that is what the reality is. 90% of the people in this country finance their entire life. Their car, their house, their credit cards, their personal loans, their school. They literally finance their steps before they take them, right? And somehow, some way, nobody in the educational system thinks, maybe we should be teaching this at a young age so people can be prepped when they get out, right? Now, I understand from a lender's perspective that the more confusion, the more you can take.
But let me ask you something, and not to get into race, right? But you're a white guy, right, John? You okay. So do you think that something has to do with race, or are white people? Is there something where we keep information from people, or is it just like? Am I overthinking, doing too much?
No, I think look, me personally, there's been lawsuits from, towards major lending institutions that, I've personally seen where there's been lawsuits aimed at some of the big retail banks for suggesting they took advantage of inner city African-American group, for lending rates in certain situations, because they would tick up and make a little more money on those loans, because the assumption was that there wasn't that level of fiscal understanding there. I personally think it's widespread, though. I don't think that it's limited. I think whatever they saw in that lawsuit was probably justified. But what the point I'm trying to make, though, is that how on earth could we expect people to understand? It goes back to what I was saying originally. Expect people to understand how to finance their lifestyle by watching the internet, right? I mean, it's tough. That's why, the reason I know it, I've been doing this forever, right? I do all aspects of finance. Obviously, this is why I've experienced it. I understand it. I've been doing it for a very long time, and it's my pleasure to explain it and convey it, hopefully, in a way that everybody understands. Yes. But imagine, how could you possibly expect? Imagine if I just don't understand how it's not, even at this age, because we're becoming much more of an aware society, right? And a much more vocal society with all the different social media and everything like that. I don't know how we still don't have them in schools, right? Because our society every day becomes more reliant on credit and debt. How is it still not in school, right? How is it not something being taught at a young age? Why isn't it in middle school? Why isn't it in a class? And why are we getting taught geography from countries that we're not going to be at? Why is that somehow preceding things like this that is inevitable that you're going to use, right? It's just, I'm not saying geography is useless. I'm saying I don't know how it preempts something that ultimately you are absolutely 100%, it's going to impact your life, and you will absolutely need that knowledge in order to functionally survive and leverage yourself properly, because you inevitably leverage, right? You will be like the other 90% before you that leverage everything that they do. So why on earth aren't our schools teaching us that? It's crazy. It's a conversation for me that goes along with the auto dealership thing, where it drives me nuts, because I don't understand how it happens. It just doesn't make any sense.
I know. Well, John, we've been at it 2 hours, 10 minutes. We've had as many as 45 to 47 people today come across Facebook and across YouTube. But again, YouTube always ends up with the most people. Okay, Facebook, my live feed, I have about 5,000 people who follow me, but they start off with about 18, 20 people, end up with 3 or 4 who still log on. Now, many of you will see this live cast. It's going to be there, but I'm going to cut up some sections of this to make it more of a smaller video so that you guys can watch it or share it with your friends. So it'd be better. You don't have to watch the whole 2 hours. But John,
I advise people, listen, if you have time, listen to it all, because it's like I said earlier in the conversation and earlier in this, when we started, we do them long-winded because there's just so much to talk about. Yes. And there's so much, it works into another topic that works into another topic that all applies in the same genre, right? So try to listen to as much as you can, because like I said, I'm not giving opinions. Correct. Right? This isn't John's opinions on finance. The stuff I'm talking about is factual, and it's factual to the effect that it can help you potentially, whether you use us or you don't. So this can be free education for somebody that's listening, just for the sheer purposes of trying to understand some things that maybe you're being misled on, because we have no intent, we have no reason to mislead. We're not. Granted, we're selling funding. The purpose of this podcast is to talk about the funding system. So technically, we are selling something, but we're sitting here giving you knowledge on AUs and all this other. We're not selling you that. Correct. We're just trying to give you the right knowledge. I mean, we got off the topic of the funding system like an hour and a half ago. The rest of the time, we've been talking about just pure educational knowledge that can help enlighten people and give them a better understanding of exactly what's going on and the degree of knowledge they'd have if they got started with us. So definitely listen if you can. I know it can be long-winded. 2 hours is a lot to listen to. But if you're somebody that's knee deep in it, finish it, man, for sure. Because I think you're only going to get more knowledge out of it. And if you go in order through all our podcasts from when we started doing these about 2 weeks ago, and we're going to keep doing them. Correct. You're going to get a lot of knowledge, and each one you're going to get more and more knowledge, because although we do end up touching on similar topics, like bullet points, each one, it's all new stuff each time we get on. Correct. So definitely listen to it as much as you can, because trust me, you're going to walk away with stuff you didn't even know, and it's going to just help your overall understanding of the stuff. Because again, going back to what I was saying earlier, you're not learning it in a classroom, that's for sure, because they're not teaching it there. Correct.
Well, John, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, give a clap to John. Thank you. John is always working. Appreciate John being in this podcast, but it's about time that you guys get educated on this channel. And I just want to say thank you to John. And John, anything else you want to say before we log off?
No, just, everybody I know that, since we started doing this like 2 weeks ago, me and Gizzy watch the numbers, and we're seeing that every time, and we get more and more people. We get more and more people, and we obviously, appreciate the more and more people that come in. The only thing I can implore, if you guys are willing, because we do have some little people that listen every time, we appreciate that. Invite your friends. Tell your friends about it, right? Tell people that you know that may need the same knowledge, and let them know that this is the place to go to get the knowledge. I mean, obviously, we do sell a product. We do sell a service. There's a sales aspect to it. But this whole thing isn't about us trying to cram a product down your throat, like I was saying earlier. It's a blend of us, promoting what we do, but more importantly, educating at the same time. So it wouldn't be a terrible idea if you have people you care about, that you know that are close to you, that you think could use the knowledge as well, because it's a good place to get real, pure, honest, legitimate, factual knowledge as applies to this area where it's shrouded in smoke everywhere else. So it may not be a bad idea. So if you can, please, by all means, because we encourage it.
Okay. All right, Jay. Well, we work every day except Sundays. With anything, email us at GizzyCredit@GizzyCredit.com. We get back to emails pretty quickly. The only time we don't work is Sundays. But most definitely, thank you, John.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm going to see you tomorrow. And this is the second podcast in this week. I feel like we could have 2 every week, depending on how our schedules work.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. But I mean, I think the more momentum we kind of garner, the more we can kind of put together. I think two is good for now. Maybe we can throw a third in as we start to gain more momentum. But I'm happy with how things are going. I hope everybody's getting a lot out of it. We'll keep making them. We'll keep making them.
You got it. All right, John. I'll see you, bro. Right. Peace. Thank you. All righty, my people. Yo, already 2 hours. Got my wife. She mad. She's like, yo, get off. What you said? I have my daughter. My daughter wants to walk around here. Listen, I really appreciate you guys logging on today. Thank you. You guys still commenting. But listen, I'm about to be out. I'm gonna try and do these twice a week for you guys. 6 p.m. Hopefully. Bendiciones. Have a good day. You no longer gotta look pathetic. You no longer gotta look pathetic. Take care, Facebook. YouTube. Bendiciones. You no longer gotta look pathetic. Look pathetic. GizzyCredit. Oh! Who's that, my daughter? Don't get scammed. What you need is just a change of plans. Time is money, you know, get that cash. Just get it fast. GizzyCredit. Peace.